The Priestess's time travel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276, Qing Dynasty 34. Are you sure that your fourth brother will allow you to leave if he gets that position? He won't let you become the prime minister and tire you to death. The 13th prince shuddered. With his fourth brother's style of doing things, this is really possible. Not only will he be exhausted to death, but he will also be exhausted to death. If your fourth brother is unwilling to let you go to sea, you will not be able to become the first person in the royal family to open his eyes to the world. Su Qingni laughed. The first person to open his eyes to the world. Hearing this word, the 13th prince's eyes became bright, and his face also showed longing. I think this word is great. What you should think about is not whether this word is great, but whether you can become such a person. Su Qingni said. The 13th prince's eyes dimmed and sighed. It's difficult to do it. But I won't give up. When the fourth brother takes that position, I will try my best to convince him. Su Qingni chuckled. Why do you have to wait for your fourth brother to take that position before going? Why not go now? Now. The 13th prince's heart began to beat wildly. What do you mean? Su Qingni smiled but said nothing. The 13th prince's heart beat faster and faster. He could not resist the temptation thrown by Su Qingni. He was a person who yearned for freedom, otherwise he would not have pestered the fourth prince, who was out of Beijing for business, to take him with him at such a young age. It was because the fourth prince met his request that he respected and was close to the fourth prince so much and became a die-hard fan of the fourth prince. Now, he was confined in a small space and yearned for freedom even more. In front of him appeared a most attractive bait. Should he bite or bite? The 13th prince gritted his teeth and said, although I am imprisoned and cannot enter the palace to see the emperor during the new year, my identity is here after all. There are many eyes watching me. If I disappear from the mansion, it will cause trouble. I am afraid that the emperor will know and order my arrest. Then I won't let you know. Su Qingni smiled. 13th prince, Su Qingni, in the scripts, the emperor will find a substitute for himself, so you should find one for yourself too. 13th prince thought Su Qingni's idea was too naive, and said with a smile, you still believe what is written in the scripts? Find a substitute? How can you easily find a substitute who looks like you? I'm afraid I may die without finding someone who looks like me. Su Qingni smiled. If we can't find one, we can create one. 13th prince didn't understand. What do you mean? Su Qingni, I know makeup, and I can make one person look like another person. Really? 13th prince widened his eyes in surprise. Su Qingni, how do you think I have been getting around outside all these years? Of course I changed my face. 13th prince stared in surprise, still not believing what Su Qingni said. Facts speak louder than words. Su Qingni said, you can find someone who looks like you. You won't say you can't find someone with such simple conditions. I can find someone. 13th prince said, although most of the people in my house have left, there are still a few loyal ones left. Wait for me for a while. After saying that, 13th prince couldn't wait to get up and walk out of the study. Su Qingni picked up a piece of pig's ear with a smile, put it in her mouth and chewed it. About a quarter of an hour later, 13th prince came into the study with a man who looked like a guard. The guard's figure was about the same as 13th prince, and the best thing was that this guard's face was actually 2 or 3 points like 13th prince. This is my cousin, Niangniang. 13th prince introduced the two. This is my good friend, who came to see me specially. Her name. Su Qingni said, my name is Su Qingni. Brother Su. Niangniang clasped his fists to Su Qingni. He had a good impression of this man who came to see his cousin in the middle of the night. Since the 13th prince was imprisoned, no one has come to the 13th prince's mansion, for fear of being implicated by the 13th prince. Although Su Qingni came in the middle of the night, he was a loyal person for coming to see the 13th prince. Such a person is worth associating with. Mr. Niangniang. Su Qingni returned the gift and smiled at the 13th prince. So he is your cousin. No wonder he looks a bit like you. This is even better. It can also save me a lot of effort. Niangniang blinked his eyes. What did Su Qingni mean? He was called by his cousin, who only said that he was taking him to meet a friend, but did not say what to do after meeting the person. The 13th prince said, then you quickly help when Niao put on makeup. Su Qingni spread her hands, I can't put on makeup without tools. What tools do you want? I'll have someone prepare them for you. The 13th prince said. I'll prepare them myself. Su Qingni said. It is easy to make up a person to look different from his previous face, but it is difficult to make up a person to look like another person. Not only do you need cosmetics, but you also need a lot of auxiliary props. There is no such thing in the 13th prince's mansion, and Su Qingni doesn't have it either, so she needs to make it now. I'll come again tomorrow night. Su Qingni asked Zhang Jia Wenyao, will you still be in the 13th prince's mansion tomorrow? Zhang Jia Wenyao replied, yes. I'm a guard in the mansion, and I stay in the 13th prince's mansion for 20 days a month. That's good, then I'll come again tomorrow. Su Qingni said, waved at the 13th prince, and performed Qinggong and disappeared into the night. Good Qinggong. Zhang Jia Wenyao looked at the direction where Su Qingni disappeared and praised, 13th master, your friend is not simple, he must be the top in the world. 13th prince chuckled. Of course this person is not simple, he even faked his death and disobeyed the emperor's order, and he was not discovered by others, how could he be simple? After returning home, Su Qingni began to prepare the tools. What she was going to do this time was not simple makeup, but disguise. Su Qingni even made a human skin mask. Of course, it was not made of real human skin, but pig skin. After many processes, the result was very similar to human skin. Several children helped on the side. Su Qingni taught them while making it, so that the children also learned the process of making human skin masks, allowing them to master an additional skill. Making it is a long process. Su Qingni started working in the morning and did not make the mask until the moon rose in the evening. Su Qingni put the face skin on Lu Shu, and a figure with the face of the 13th prince and the body of a teenager appeared in front of everyone. How amazing! All the children exclaimed. Su Qingni took the mask off Lu Shu's face and said to the children, there are still some materials left. You can try to make a human skin mask. Chapter 277, Qing Dynasty 35. There are still some materials left. You can try to make a human skin mask. The children cheered and immediately came forward to try to make a human skin mask by themselves. Su Qingni went to the 13th prince's residence with a mask. She and the children did not expect that the human skin mask made by the children themselves would help them get rid of a big trouble later. When Su Qingni came to the 13th prince's study, the 13th prince and Zhang Jia Wenyao were already waiting in the study. Zhang Jia Wenyao had already learned from the 13th prince what was going on. However, Zhang Jia Wenyao was very skeptical about this. He did not believe that Su Qingni could change his appearance to that of the 13th prince. Disguise, that was only a legend. Qing. Qingyan, you are finally here. I thought you would not come. The 13th prince greeted Su Qingni. Su Qingni smiled and said, it took a little longer to make the human skin mask. I'm late. Human skin mask. 13th prince was shocked. You didn't peel off the skin of a person, did you? Zhang Jia Wenyao also shrank his neck in fear. Su Qingni smiled evilly. Yes, I was late because I was looking for the right person's skin. Zhang Jia Wenyao was so scared that he took several steps back, but 13th prince smiled when he saw Su Qingni's expression, knowing that Su Qingni was joking. Is the human skin mask really made of human skin? 13th prince asked. Of course not. Su Qingni said, human skin loses its vitality after being peeled off from the human body. How can it be pasted on someone else's face? Don't worry, the human skin mask I made is made of pig skin through many processes. It looks no different from human skin and remains active. Zhang Jia Wenyao was greatly relieved when he heard this. If it was really human skin, he would never paste it on his face. Even if 13th prince gave him an order, he would not paste it. Su Qingni took out a human skin mask and walked towards Zhang Jia Wenyao. Guard Zhang, please sit on the chair and I'll help you put on the mask. Zhang Jia Wenyao swallowed and wanted to run away, but under the scorching gaze of the 13th prince, he still sat up on the chair obediently according to Su Qingni's words and closed his eyes. He felt Su Qingni's hands fiddling with his face, and a layer of something was stuck on his face, but this thing was breathable, so it didn't feel uncomfortable. Okay. He heard Su Qingni say, and then he heard the 13th prince gasp. Zhang Jia Wenyao opened his eyes and looked in the direction of the 13th prince. 13th prince, what's wrong? The 13th prince stared at Zhang Jia Wenyao's face with shock. He didn't answer, but picked up the mirror beside him and let the mirror face Zhang Jia Wenyao's face. The mirror was made of glass, because the 9th prince opened a glass workshop. Nowadays, glass products are no longer scarce and expensive. Except for the extremely poor families in the capital, ordinary people will have a glass mirror. The picture reflected by the glass mirror is 100 times clearer than that reflected by the bronze mirror, and can be described as clear and distinct. Zhang Jia Wenyao saw the person in the mirror, the eyebrows, the nose, the thin lips. Oh my god, isn't the person in this 13th master? Then, he saw another 13th master's face appear in the mirror. Zhang Jia Wenyao turned his head and looked at the 13th master standing behind him. He pointed at the mirror and then at his own face. The 13th master said, I am as surprised as you. Especially when I see the same face as mine but making a stupid expression, I can't accept it. Zhang Jia Wenyao retorted, 13th master, I am not stupid. The 13th prince replied with 2 words haha. Zhang Jia Wenyao turned his head to look at the face in the mirror and reached out to touch his own face. Miraculous! Miraculous! Zhang Jia Wenyao exclaimed in amazement. The 13th prince nodded in agreement, it is indeed miraculous. It is even more magical than the makeup techniques of the 8th and 9th brothers. My 4th brother and I suffered a lot from this kind of makeup techniques. Su Qingni touched her nose guiltily. She must not let the 13th prince know that she taught the makeup technique to the 9th prince. The 13th prince decided to leave the 13th prince's mansion on the 3rd night and go to Su Qingni. Before that, he must deal with all the affairs in the mansion. In addition to the 2 of them, he had to let Fu Jin know that he asked Zhang Jia Wenyao to pretend to be himself, so that Fu Jin could cover for Zhang Jia Wenyao. Apart from anything else, the 13th prince no longer had an intimate relationship with a woman in the backyard, which would arouse suspicion. It is better to say that the 13th prince has a good relationship with Fu Jin and does not want to get close to other women in the backyard. On the 3rd night, the 13th prince left his mansion with another human skin mask made by Su Qingni and came to Su Qingni's small courtyard. This human skin mask is really good. After I put it on, I walked on the street with confidence and no one recognized me. The 13th prince laughed. I met the 9th prince on the road, and he walked past me without even glancing at me. Haha, it's so funny. Su Qingni placed a white piece on the chessboard and said, if you can be recognized even though you are wearing a human skin mask, then don't even think about leaving the capital, and Zhang Jia Wenyao will also be discovered. The 13th prince put down the black piece. I will definitely not be recognized. When it comes to his freedom, he must not be recognized by others no matter what. By the way, said the 13th prince, Qingni, perhaps 9th brother also knows that you faked your death. Su Qingni paused with her hand holding the chess piece, looked up and asked, how does he know? The 13th prince shook his head, I don't know either. I just inferred it. Over the years, 9th brother has been asking his men to find someone, and I think you might be looking for you. Before I went to pay tribute to you that year, 9th prince had been to your grave. Maybe. Su Qingni, you mean he once had someone dig up my grave, and saw that there was no one in the coffin, so he knew I was not dead. The 13th prince smiled awkwardly, 9th brother would not do such a thing. Digging up other people's graves is simply too immoral. Su Qingni thought for a moment and said, he must have made a discovery before digging up my grave. Su Qingni's face showed a hint of realization, I forgot that it rained not long after I was buried. I crawled out of the grave after the rain and then restored the grave. The soil on the grave was different before and after the rain. Jiu must have discovered this and found out that I was not dead, so he asked people to dig up the grave to see if there was anyone in the coffin. Chapter 278, the 36th. 9th brother is really attentive. The 13th prince cast his eyes on Su Qingni's face. Although Su Qingni put on makeup and her appearance changed, the basic outline of her facial features remained unchanged. The 13th prince could think of Su Qingni's original appearance by looking at her facial features. But what a beautiful woman. Qingni, you and 9th brother don't know each other, right? Otherwise, how could his own 9th brother be so concerned about a woman who died before entering his backyard, and personally went to the grave to pay tribute? Su Qingni gave the 13th prince a pair of hygienic eyes. This is not thanks to you and your 4th brother and sister-in-law. What do you mean? The 13th prince didn't understand. Su Qingni said, your 4th sister-in-law arranged for me to live in her dowry, and specifically asked for me in front of concubine. How could someone who is sensitive to the news not know? If they check my identity and background again, the matter of sweet potatoes and potatoes will be found out. Do you think they will let me enter Prince Yong's backyard? The 13th prince understood now. So the emperor gave you to the 9th brother because of the calculations of the 8th and 9th brothers. The 13th prince said, then you and another concubine fell into the water. Was it also their calculation? That's not the case. It was just the jealousy of the other concubine. Su Qingni thought of Niuhulu and asked the 13th prince, is there a Niuhulu princess in Prince Yong's backyard? Did she give birth to a son? The 13th prince knew who was in the 4th prince's backyard. After all, he was the 4th prince's closest brother. Hearing this, he thought for a while and said, there is no princess named Niuhulu in the 4th brother's backyard. No. Su Qingni was surprised. How could there be no? Then who gave birth to Hongli? Hongli was born to Fu Cha. The 13th prince replied. Su Qingni. I actually butterflied Niuhulu. It's a pity that Hongli was not butterflied. But if he had a different mother, would this guy still grow up to be a prodigal son? Is Niuhulu your friend? 13th prince asked, how about I ask Wen Yao to help you find out her whereabouts? No need. Su Qingni stopped him with a smile, she is not my friend. If she is not a friend, then she is an enemy. 13th prince thought of what Su Qingni said about being schemed by another concubine, and understood that Niuhulu was the concubine who schemed against Su Qingni. But it seems that this person did not get a very good ending. I think this person is targeting the backyard of his 4th brother, but now there is no such woman in the backyard of the 4th brother. This woman schemed against others but could not achieve her own goal. She must be sick to death. The two of them changed the topic, and 13th prince did not get a definite answer whether Su Qingni knew the 9th prince. Relying on the human skin mask, 13th prince had a good time in the capital for a few days. The fleet going out to sea will not set off for half a month, so it is better to stay in the capital than to go to Tongzhou port to wait early in the morning. As the two were talking, they suddenly saw Lu Shu walking in with a package with a worried and confused face. Seeing Su Qingni, Lu Shu's eyes lit up and he ran over quickly. Young master, look. As he said that, he handed the package in his hand to Su Qingni. Su Qingni looked at the package. Oh, there was a child who was less than a year old wrapped in it. The child was white and tender and very cute. Now he was sleeping soundly with his eyes closed, quiet and well-behaved like an angel. Whose child did you bring back? Su Qingni asked. Young master, this is my cousin. Lu Shu said. Your cousin? Su Qingni was surprised. This was the baby of Lu Ying and the 4th prince. Your aunt and uncle were willing to let you take your cousin away? Aren't they afraid that you, a little boy, can't take good care of your cousin? Lu Shu scratched his head blankly and said, my cousin was sent by my aunt. She asked me to take my cousin away. She also said that my cousin was a member of the Lu family and had nothing to do with that man. That man should be my uncle, right? My aunt may have quarreled with my uncle. Where is your aunt? Su Qingni asked. Lu Shu, aunt is gone. She said she had been living a lie for years. She was unwilling to accept it and wanted revenge. Lu Shu said with a worried look on his face, Sir, will my aunt be okay? This is because he knows the identity of the 4th prince. It seems that Lu Ying and the 4th prince have fallen out. I wonder what will happen to them. Your aunt will be okay. Lu Ying is the heroine. What will happen to her? Even if she encounters danger, she will be able to turn it into safety. The only ones who will be in trouble are passers-by and cannon fodder who are related to them. Su Qingni stared at Lu Shu. Is this child a passerby? Or cannon fodder? Lu Shu, go and call Xiaojia and Xiaoli home quickly. Su Qingni ordered Lu Shu, and called Xia Elbing and Xia Erding who were busy in the kitchen. Hurry up and pack your luggage. We will leave Beijing today. Why? The question was from the 13th prince. Although the other children were also confused, they would never question Su Qingni's orders and followed Su Qingni's orders obediently. Only the 13th prince, who had nothing to do, would ask his doubts. Su Qingni stuffed the child into the 13th prince's arms, and the 13th prince hurriedly held the child. This is your nephew, you must hold him well. Su Qingni said. My nephew. The 13th prince was puzzled, is this my nephew? This child is the son of Lu Ying and Prince Yuang, isn't he your nephew? What? The 13th prince was shocked. Su Qingni said, Lu Shu is Lu Ying's biological nephew. Lu Ying sent her son to Lu Shu and said that the child had nothing to do with Prince Yong. She should know Prince Yong's identity. There is a lot of trouble between these two people. The 13th Prince. The 13th Prince was so shocked that he couldn't speak. At this time, he had only one thought: fourth brother is confused. 13th Prince, then why should we leave? Su Qingni, if we don't leave, will your fourth brother vent his anger on us? 13th Prince spoke for his fourth brother. Fourth brother is not that kind of person. Su Qingni chuckled. Do you know the sticking rod office and the blood droplet? 13th Prince was at a loss. Although he was the fourth prince's most trusted brother, the fourth prince would not let him know these secrets. Su Qingni chuckled twice again. The sticking rod office is an organization established by your good fourth brother to collect intelligence. It is your fourth brother's spy. Many officials have people from the sticking rod office in their homes. As for the blood droplet, it is an organization that specializes in assassinating your fourth brother. I don't want to stay at home and wait for the blood droplet to come. Fourth brother won't. Although 13th Prince was shocked by the existence of the sticking rod office and the blood droplet, he still believed in the fourth prince more and spoke for the fourth prince. But the facts soon slapped him in the face. When everyone left the capital and stayed in the wilderness at night, the blood droplet came. Chapter 279, The Qing Dynasty 37. Su Qingni didn't need to do anything, as the flying guillotine was killed by several children working together. The 13th Prince looked at the body of the flying guillotine and couldn't accept the fact for a long time. The royal princes all have some power of their own, but most of them are servants and guards in the palace who win over court officials. The fourth prince is really the only one who raises killers by himself. His own fourth brother is too bold. Isn't he afraid that the emperor will know? Then the 13th Prince smiled bitterly. The fourth brother hid so deeply, how could the emperor know? For a moment, the 13th Prince felt that the fourth brother was very strange. What he knew about the fourth brother was just a small part of what the fourth brother was willing to let him know, right? What about the brotherhood between them? How much? The 13th Prince's smile was very bitter, and this realization made him extremely heartbroken. Su Qingni walked up and patted the 13th Prince on the shoulder as a comfort. 13th Prince spoke in a hoarse voice, I feel like a failure as a person. I thought the emperor really loved me as his son, but I didn't expect that he would ruthlessly abandon me and send me to hell when he turned against me. I thought fourth brother really treated me as a brother and would not hide anything from me, but I didn't know that fourth brother had so many secrets that I didn't know. Father-son love, brotherly love, I have never really had any of them. What could Su Qingni say? She could only pat 13th Prince's shoulder to comfort him. On the other side, several children buried the body of the blood droplet and came over. This place can't stay any longer. Su Qingni asked everyone to get on the carriage, and Xiaojia drove the carriage to Tongzhou overnight. On the way, Su Qingni asked several children to wear human skin masks they made by themselves, and changed their appearances, and asked Xia Elbing and Xia Erding to dress up as boys. In this way, they met the people from the sticking pole after arriving at the notice, but they were not recognized by the sticking pole. The group stayed in Tongzhou for a few days and then boarded the fleet to go to sea. Su Qingni asked several children for their opinions. If they didn't want to go to sea, she would arrange for them to live somewhere else. She would give each of them 5,000 taels of silver as a settlement fee. But the children didn't want to be separated from Su Qingni, and after this incident, they were afraid that the sticky pole and the blood droplet would not let them go. Since they were escaping, they would run farther. So, including the baby, everyone got on the ship to go to sea. They didn't know that not long after they got on the ship, several people came on the best main ship in the fleet, one of whom was their old acquaintance, the 9th Prince. Over the past few years, the 9th Prince has seen clearly that Master King has no intention of passing the throne to the 8th Prince, otherwise he would not suppress the 8th Prince like this. The 8th Prince also understood that his possibility was not great, so he chose to help the 14th Prince and support the 14th Prince to ascend to the throne. But the 9th Prince was not convinced by the 14th Prince. He felt that the 14th Prince had an unrighteous mind and had been hiding behind the 8th Prince for a long time. He looked down on the 14th Prince's means. Moreover, his relationship with his elder brother, the 14th Prince, is not close. Once the 14th Prince ascends to the throne, he may not be able to go to sea whenever he wants. The 9th Prince is now discouraged about the fight for the throne, so he might as well run his own business well. As for the issue of going to sea, Since it is unlikely that he will go to sea after the new emperor ascends to the throne, it is better to sneak out and take a look at the outside world while the emperor is still here. The emperor is his biological father, and even if he is angry that he left without an imperial edict, he will not really do anything to him. What's more, his biological mother is still here and can speak for him. It would be a problem if his brother became the emperor. After the 9th prince boarded the ship, the steward reported the affairs of the fleet to the 9th prince. When the 9th prince heard that 2 adults with 7 teenagers and a baby came on the ship, his heart moved. Could the baby be the one the 4th prince was looking for? Although the 4th prince did it secretly, there is no wall that is impenetrable. The 4th prince sent so many men to find a baby, and anyone with some means in the capital knew the news. What's more, the 4th prince is a low-key person, but Lu Ying is not. She made a very high-profile fuss, so that everyone in the capital knew that the 4th prince had a concubine, and the concubine was the daughter of a traitor. Even the emperor in the palace knew about Lu Ying's existence, and called the 4th prince to the palace to scold him. Haha, the 4th prince no longer has a good impression in the emperor's heart. He used to pretend so well, but now it's all exposed because of a woman. Humph, I don't believe that the emperor will give the throne to the son who is in cahoots with the traitors. And the 14th prince. The 9th prince couldn't help but feel sour. What's so good about that woman surnamed Lu? Even the 14th prince was obsessed with this woman, and he even ran to the 4th prince's mansion and beat him up. Haha, their mother was so angry that she vomited blood, and she wished she could eat that Lu alive. But this Lu was amazing. She had been in the capital for so long and had not been caught. Find someone to find out the origins of those people. The 9th prince instructed the steward. Yes. The steward agreed. The 13th prince knew that the 9th prince was also in the fleet, and he became interested in them. After leaving the Tongzhou port, the 13th prince felt that he was free. In the next few days, he simply took off his mask and appeared in front of people in his true face. He didn't think the sailors on the ship would recognize him. The sailors did not know the 13th prince, but there were people in the fleet who knew him. His men did not investigate the origins of Su Qingni and her group, so the 9th prince decided to go out and test it himself. The 9th prince took a small boat to the ship that the 13th prince was on. As soon as he got on the deck, he saw the 13th prince standing at the bow admiring the scenery on the sea. The 9th prince, old 13, the 13th prince turned around. 9th brother, the 9th prince, the 13th prince, the two looked at each other for a long time, and the 9th prince said, "Aren't you imprisoned? How dare you disobey the order of the emperor's father and run away?" The 13th prince, 9th brother, the prince is not allowed to leave the capital without an imperial edict. Did the emperor's father allow you to leave the capital? Did he allow you to go to the sea? The 9th prince, the 13th prince, they looked at each other for a long time again, and the 9th prince suddenly smiled. "Old 13, I thought you were the old man's filial son, but it turns out that what you did before was just superficial." The 13th prince smiled and replied, "My younger brother has always been filial to his father, but he just likes to play a little." "Isn't 9th brother the same?" The 9th prince nodded. "Yes, we just like to play a little and want to go on a long trip." The 13th prince, "Since we have the same destination, I'll trouble you to take care of me along the way." The 9th prince, "Don't worry, 13th brother, I will take good care of you." Chapter 280, Qing Dynasty 38. Su Qingni took back her foot and quietly returned to the room. "Let's leave this sure field to the two brothers." The 9th prince asked, "Does your good 4th brother know that the 13th brother is going out to sea?" "He must not know, right? The 4th brother is focused on finding his concubine's son and is in love and hatred with a woman surnamed Lu. How can he care about his good brother?" The 13th prince asked back, "Does the 8th brother know that the 9th brother is going out to sea?" The 9th prince snorted. Even the 10th brother didn't know, so how could the 8th brother know? Alice, if the two princes hadn't disappeared together and the target was too big, he would definitely take the 10th brother with him. "Old 13, you actually took the 4th brother's concubine away. Aren't you afraid that your 4th brother will resent you?" The 13th prince blurted out, "How do you know?" The 9th prince laughed, "I just guessed, and as a result, I tricked you and you admitted it yourself." The 13th prince. The 13th prince, 9th brother, have you given up helping the 8th brother fight for that position? This time it was the 9th prince's turn to be silent. After a long while, the 9th prince said, "The 8th prince has little chance of taking that position. He looked into the eyes of the 13th prince and said, "Don't think that the 8th prince has little chance. Your good 4th brother has a great chance." After the incident with the Liu Ying, the emperor will not be at ease handing over the Qing dynasty to the 4th prince. The 13th prince asked, "The Liu Ying incident was a big deal." The 9th prince, "Why? You don't know." The 13th prince, "I left Beijing early in the morning." The 9th prince, "Then you missed a good show." The woman surnamed Liu stabbed the 4th prince with a sword and almost killed him. Later, the 14th prince ran to the 4th prince's mansion for the woman surnamed Liu and beat him up. Tisk tisk, brothers committing suicide and killing each other. The old man and concubine were so angry when they heard about it. It is said that concubine was so angry that she vomited blood. The woman surnamed Liu is really good at hiding. The old man sent people from the 9 cities army to look for her, but they couldn't find her. "Brother, I suspect that the woman may be hiding in the 14th prince's mansion." The 13th prince was stunned. "So, how did LV Ying get involved with the 14th prince again? Isn't the 14th prince causing trouble? This LV Ying is simply a beauty that brings disaster." Su Qingni was so excited when she heard this. "Oh my, what a big show. It's a pity that she didn't even see it." She pricked up her ears and continued to listen to the 9th prince's gossip about the grievances between LV Ying and the 4th prince and the 14th prince. Unfortunately, the 9th prince didn't say anything and started arguing with the 13th prince again. The two people scolded each other without using any dirty words, citing classics, which made Su Qingni smack her lips. Perhaps the scolding was not enough, and the two of them started fighting again. The 9th prince's skills were not as good as the 13th prince, and he was pressed on the deck by the 13th prince. The 9th prince simply used his mouth and hands and feet to fight, and rolled together with the 13th prince. The two were like children fighting. No one dared to step forward to persuade the two. The two people collapsed on the deck and gasped for breath to rest after being tired. After a long while, the 13th prince stood up first and extended his hand to the 9th prince. "9th brother, you are the host, please buy me a drink." The 9th prince put his hand in the palm of the 13th prince, stood up with the force of his pull, snorted, and said, "I will get you drunk with wine." The two brothers left the ship with their hands on each other's shoulders. Su Qingni came out of the room and looked at the two people on the main ship sitting on the deck drinking. She was glad that she was not as careless as the 13th prince and took off her makeup as soon as she arrived at the sea. Otherwise, she would be recognized by the 9th prince. How could she face that gentleman then? That gentleman was not a big-hearted person. Su Qingni decided to hide if she could and never contact that gentleman. The 13th prince also understood that Su Qingni would be embarrassed to face the 9th prince, so he helped Su Qingni to cover up. In this way, the 9th prince did not find Su Qingni until he landed in Spain. Su Qingni simply separated from the 13th prince, letting him and the 9th brother travel together, while she took a few children to travel around the countries and choose a place to settle down. On the boat, Su Qingni taught the children English, French and Spanish, so they would not be bothered by language problems. In the end, the children settled in Switzerland. This was of course Su Qingni's suggestion. On the way, Su Qingni and others met Dihaya. He had settled down in France, married a wife, and had 2 mixed-race children. Seeing Su Qingni and others, Dihaya felt very close. He thanked Su Qingni for saving his life. "Su Qingni, I thought you would blame me for throwing you on the ship." Dihaya said, "You did blame me at first, but then you didn't. You did it for my own good, to keep me away from the Qing dynasty, so that I could save my life and not implicate you. I was wrong before. I shouldn't have brought danger to you again and again. You kindly saved me, but I dragged you into danger and brought the blood droplet to you. It was right for me to send you two away." Dihaya was full of guilt. He thought that Su Qingni and the children went abroad because of him, because he brought the blood droplet to Su Qingni's home, which attracted the attention of the Qing court to Su Qingni and others. Su Qingni and others were forced to leave their hometown. Su Qingni did not explain this misunderstanding, and let Dihaya misunderstand it. His behavior was wrong in the first place, and the practice of letting the blood droplet to the Su family's courtyard could really be regarded as repaying kindness with enmity. If Su Qingni and the children did not know martial arts and were just ordinary people, then everyone in the courtyard would have been slaughtered by the blood droplet. After arranging the children, Su Qingni left them and traveled alone in Western Europe. Every time she arrived in a country, Su Qingni would stay for a while. She even mixed into the aristocratic circles of various countries, met the queens and emperors of various countries, and was even granted a title. By the time Su Qingni decided to leave Western Europe and return to the Qing dynasty, she had already been granted titles in more than a dozen countries. Su Qingni found the 13th and 9th princes and asked them to prepare to return home. After all, Master Kang was about to finish, and they, as sons, should go back to see their father off. The 13th and 9th princes were a little reluctant to leave. The two of them also mixed into the European aristocratic circles with their own abilities, and used the things they brought from the Qing dynasty to make a lot of money from these Western bumpkins. The 9th prince could count money every day until his hands cramped, and he could laugh when he slept. The 13th prince was very interested in Western science and devoted himself to learning every day to enrich himself. Therefore, neither of them felt the passage of time. When Su Qingni found the 13th prince, he suddenly realized that nearly 10 years had passed. "I'm going back to China." The 13th prince sighed. "When I return, I hope I can put what I've learned into practice and use technology to change the Qing dynasty." Chapter 281, The 39. The fleet of the 9th prince would come to the European continent every year, and the three of them would take the fleet's ship back. The 9th prince finally met Su Qingni, but Su Qingni used her inner strength to change her facial muscles, so the 9th prince could not recognize Su Qingni even if she knew makeup. It was just that Su Qingni gave him a familiar feeling, but he couldn't think of where he had seen Su Qingni. When the three returned to the land of the Qing dynasty, it was already May of the 61st year of Kangxi. The 13th prince went directly back to his mansion. Because of the human skin mask, and the help of his wife Zhao Jia to cover up, Zhang Jia Wenyao had been pretending for 10 years without being discovered. Now that the 13th prince has successfully returned, Zhang Jia Wenyao breathed a sigh of relief, tore off the human skin mask and ran home. In order to pretend to be the 13th prince over the years, he rarely went home, and his own sons and daughters could hardly recognize him. The 9th prince was not as worry-free as the 13th prince. The first thing he did after returning to Beijing was to go to the palace to plead guilty to Master Kang. As he expected, although Master Kang reprimanded him, he did not punish him, let alone confine him. The older Master Kang gets, the softer his heart becomes. The 9th prince was not thinking about the position under him, he just ran out to play. What was there to punish? Compared with those sons who were thinking about his position, the 9th prince was a good son. It was easy for Master Kang to get away with it, but it was not easy for concubine Yi and the 10th prince. Concubine Niangniang scolded the 9th prince for a long time with tears in her eyes. Finally, the 9th prince stuffed the gifts he brought from the west to concubine Yi into her arms, temporarily diverting concubine Yi's attention. The 9th prince took the opportunity to run out of the Yikan palace. Back at the palace, the 9th prince was not at peace either. The 10th prince and the 8th prince came to the door. The 8th prince was fine, but the 10th prince grabbed the 9th prince's arm and complained. Complaining that the 9th prince ran out alone without taking him to play. 9th prince, if you want to go to the west, I can have my fleet take you out. Really? 10th prince's eyes sparkled. 9th prince, of course. I'll give you a few of my men. They've been with me in the west for 10 years and are very familiar with the western countries. They can be your guides. 10th prince was happy. 9th brother, you are my real brother. Hurry, help me arrange it. 10th brother, the prince cannot leave Beijing. 8th prince said. 10th prince, didn't 9th brother leave Beijing? The emperor didn't do anything to 9th brother. 8th prince, that's because 9th brother ran away secretly. The emperor is old now. As long as 9th brother comes back, he won't blame me too much. 10th prince, then I'll run away secretly too. No. 8th prince said. Why? 10th prince was dissatisfied. 8th prince sighed. The emperor's health is getting worse and worse now. I think it will only be 2 years. If you run away secretly to the west, I'm afraid you won't be able to come back to see the emperor for the last time. 9th prince and 10th prince were silent. The two men also felt the aging of Master Kang, and they also had a clue in their hearts. The 8th prince stepped forward and patted the 10th prince on the shoulder, saying, be patient for another 2 years. After 2 years, we will go together. 8th brother, you are going to the west too. The 10th prince widened his eyes. The 8th prince smiled bitterly. I am afraid that the new emperor will not tolerate me. If I don't leave, it will be difficult to have a good end. 9th brother, are you sure who the new emperor will be? The ninth prince asked. He had been away from the Qing dynasty for 10 years and didn't know much about the situation in the Qing dynasty. Who else would it be besides the fourth prince? The eighth prince smiled bitterly. The ninth prince frowned. Didn't the fourth prince have an affair with a woman named Lu? And the emperor still wants to give the throne to the fourth prince. The eighth prince said, the woman named Lu is dead. The fourth prince killed her with his own hands. The emperor is very satisfied with it. Really dead? The ninth prince didn't quite believe it. Could it be a play put on by the fourth prince? He is the best at pretending. Who knows? The eighth prince said, as long as the emperor believes in him, who else would dare to question him? The ninth prince snorted and asked, what about the 14th prince? I heard that he is a very powerful general. How come you don't think highly of him? The eighth prince sighed. He had been supporting the 14th prince all these years and wanted to help the 14th prince ascend to the throne, but the result only made him discouraged. If the emperor wanted the 14th prince to take the throne, he would not have let him stay in Shanghai, Tibet all the time, nor would he have allowed Niangniang, a slave, to hold the 14th prince's army hostage. The 10th prince sneered, I'm afraid the 14th prince doesn't understand, and really thinks he is the great general and the emperor is going to pass the throne to him. 8th brother shouldn't have supported the 14th prince in the first place. The 9th prince said, 8th brother, if the 4th prince really takes the throne, we will go to the New World and carve out a territory for ourselves. Then you will be the founding emperor. New World. The 8th prince and the 10th prince stared at the 9th prince in surprise. Founding emperor. The New World is a continent discovered by Westerners. The area there is several times larger than that of the Qing dynasty. There are no countries on it except for some indigenous people. Western countries have already sent people to occupy the territory, but the territory there is very large and they have not occupied it all. After we go there, we can find a piece of land that no one has yet, occupy it first, and then compete with those Western countries for the territory. The 9th prince became more and more excited as he spoke, and the 8th prince and the 10th prince became more and more excited as they listened. Their ancestor Nurhasi started out with 13 sets of armor and eventually conquered the world. As his descendants, why can't they carve out a kingdom of their own? The 10th prince excitedly said to the 8th prince, 8th brother, go ahead. I'll be your pioneer and we'll fight for the throne. The 8th prince barely suppressed his excitement and said, this is easy to say but difficult to do. The 9th prince said, it's not difficult to say. The reason why Western countries can seize territory overseas is because of their ships and weapons, and I have no shortage of these things. In these years, I have not only made money from Westerners, but also purchased many advanced weapons from Western countries. Moreover, I have found many craftsmen and manufacturing drawings for these weapons. 8th brother, now we have weapons, are we afraid that we can't grab a good territory? Although the 8th prince was cautious by nature, his ambition and passion were no less than the 10th prince. After hearing what the 9th prince said, he clenched his fist and said, okay, the three of us brothers will go and conquer a piece of territory that belongs to us. So, when the 4th prince was secretly planning to get involved in the throne and was guarding against 80 or 90 people, the other three stopped playing with him and began to prepare to go out to sea to conquer the throne abroad. With the support of the 9th prince's fleet and a large sum of money, their plan went smoothly. When they received the order from Master Kang to recruit all the princes to Changchun Garden, the three of them had already sent their families on board. Chapter 282, Qing Dynasty 40. Master Kang passed away, and his will passed the throne to the 4th prince. The 4th prince thought that the 8th, 90 and 3 would be dissatisfied and make trouble, but the three of them were very quiet, which made the 4th prince, who had made sufficient preparations, feel a little depressed, like punching cotton. However, after the 14th prince came back, he gave him a channel to vent his anger, and the 4th prince vented all his anger on the 14th prince. Seeing that the 4th prince was so ruthless to his own brother, 8090 strengthened his determination to leave. After Master Kang was buried, when the new Emperor Yongzheng was thinking about how to deal with 89 and 3, the 13th prince entered the palace and told him the news that 89 and 3 had left. The 13th prince admired 89's courage. If it were not for helping Yongzheng stabilize the government, he would also want to leave, compete with foreigners for territory, and be a founding monarch. Gone. Yongzheng was surprised, then his face darkened. Send someone to chase them immediately. Your Majesty. The 13th prince hurriedly said, after all, we are brothers, let them go. Yongzheng stared at the 13th prince, and said with a gloomy face, 13th brother, it's not that I won't let them go, but whether they will let me go. If I let them go this time, who knows what they will do. If they do something bad for the country, I will be a sinner of the Qing dynasty. They won't. The 13th prince hurriedly said, 8th brother and the others chose to leave the Qing dynasty and will never come back. They will not pose a threat to the emperor. Yongzheng narrowed his eyes and stared at the 13th prince. Do you know a lot about their situation? When did you have such a good relationship with him? 13th prince, I have only met 9th brother, and 9th brother did not hide it from me. He smiled bitterly in his heart. 4th brother is no longer the 4th brother in his childhood memory. He is the emperor. Yongzheng took a deep look at the 13th prince again. He didn't dwell on this issue anymore, nor did he send anyone to hunt down the 8th, 9th, and 13th brothers. The 13th prince let out a sigh of relief. The 4th brother still had a little brotherly love for his brothers. Your Majesty, what do you think of the memorial I submitted before? The 13th prince asked one of the topics he was most concerned about now. Yongzheng frowned. The maritime ban was ordered by the emperor. I just ascended the throne and cannot overturn the emperor's order immediately. What's more, the theory of the power of the West you said is too exaggerated. Our Qing dynasty is rich and powerful. How can some small countries compare? As for the establishment of a navy, the treasury is empty. Let's put it on hold for the time being. The 13th prince. During this period of time, he submitted several memorials to Yongzheng, asking Yongzheng to pay more attention to Western countries, but unfortunately, Yongzheng did not adopt any of them. Yongzheng did not go out of the country, and his vision was too narrow. The 13th prince could only sigh. He no longer dared to submit relevant memorials. Yongzheng was already dissatisfied with him and had doubts about him. He now dared not do anything unnecessary. However, if the Qing dynasty always ignored the West, was self-righteous, and closed its doors to the outside world, in the future, the 13th prince had a headache. Sometimes he wondered if he hadn't followed Su Qingni to travel overseas, would he not have such troubles? Would he be happier if he didn't know anything? Days passed by in the irritability and worry of the 13th prince, and several years passed. Under the rule of Yongzheng, the people of the Qing dynasty lived a much better life than in the last years of Master Kang. In particular, potatoes, sweet potatoes and corn were promoted by Yongzheng, and the number of people who starved to death was 80% less than when Master Kang was in power. Parliament. The 13th prince asked the subordinate who reported the news in surprise, is it really a parliament? Did you hear the name wrong? The subordinate, no, those rebels did organize the parliament. The members of the parliament come from many fields. The subordinate told the 13th prince everything he had seen in the south. The 13th prince went from initial shock to helplessness and then calmness. Wasn't this familiar parliamentary system something he had seen when he traveled in the West? Some of these rebels had also studied in the West. The 13th prince waved his hand and asked his subordinates to leave. He stayed in the study alone for a long time, without even eating dinner or snacks. Afterwards, the 13th prince left the study and went to the palace to see Yongzheng. He reported to Yongzheng that there were rebel activities in the south and wanted to investigate it personally. Yongzheng agreed. The next morning, the 13th prince left the capital. Su Qingni also left with him. This was the 13th prince who took the initiative to find Su Qingni and asked her to accompany him to the south. What do you want to do? Su Qingni asked the 13th prince. The 13th prince was at a loss, I don't know either. Let's see the person first. Su Qingni said, the Western constitutional monarchy is not bad. The 13th prince did not answer, and asked Su Qingni, do you think my 4th brother is a good emperor? Su Qingni nodded, he is a diligent emperor. But Su Qingni gave the 13th prince a turn, he doesn't have a good successor. The 13th prince retorted, Hongli is not bad. Su Qingni chuckled, do you really understand your nephew? Don't you think your nephew is a little bit ambitious? Don't you think your nephew admires your father very much and learns from your father in everything? The problem is that he is not learning from your wise and brave father in the early days, but from your father in the later days who showed kindness but actually indulged his ministers in corruption and evil. You say, if such a person becomes emperor, what will happen to the Qing dynasty in the future? The 13th prince. With a hoarse throat, the 13th prince said, Hongli is not so bad, right? Su Qingni used a chuckle to slap the 13th prince in the face. The 13th prince was silent. Su Qingni did not disturb the 13th prince, as he needed to think things over by himself. When she arrived in the south, Su Qingni met an old friend, the chairman of the so-called anti-thief organization council, Zimenyu. Because of the disguise, Zimenyu did not recognize Su Qingni, and his focus was on the 13th prince. The two sat together and talked for a long time, with Su Qingni listening on the side. Because she had also been to the west and was someone the 13th prince trusted, Zimenyu allowed her to stay. This long time lasted for half a month. During this half-month, the 13th prince and Zimenyu reached an agreement that changed the entire Qing dynasty and the course of history. 3 years later, Yongzhang looked at the 13th prince standing under the dragon throne with an ugly face. "I trusted you so much, but you betrayed me." The 13th prince felt guilty towards Yongzhang and let Yongzhang scold him. When the scolding stopped, he spoke again. "Fourth brother, although I feel sorry for doing this, I don't regret it. I feel that I deserve this land of China and the people on this land. Fourth brother, China cannot fall behind, it can only rise." Chapter 283, Qing Dynasty 41. The Qing dynasty has changed. Although the emperor is still the emperor, he no longer has the power he should have. He is just a symbol. The real power is the prime minister, the cabinet, and the parliament. The first prime minister was the 13th prince, and the prime minister was Zimenyu. After the establishment of the new regime, the prime minister and the prime minister vigorously developed industry and technology, and brought in many talents from Western countries. In just 10 years, the development of the Qing dynasty was faster than in the past 100 years. The Qing dynasty formed its own navy, and their weapons and ships made people from Western countries daunted, dispelling their covetousness for the Qing dynasty. On the streets of the capital, an old man in his 50s walked slowly, as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. This man had a small braid behind his forehead, which was out of tune with many people on the street. Passers-by knew that this was a conservative when they saw the old man's hairstyle. Since the New Deal issued the order to keep hair, many old-school Manchus were unwilling to implement it. The New Deal advocated democracy and freedom, and did not punish them or force them to keep their hair. However, after seeing that others had a good-looking hairstyle, many people eventually kept their hair. Only a group of elderly and stubborn people would still wear pigtail braids. For such people, passers-by did not look down on them, but just regarded them as strange. The old man was very calm, not angry because of the gaze of the crowd, but his eyes were very strange. Well, it should be said that everything on the street was very strange to him. The pedestrians on the street all walked on the right side, making the road look very smooth. There were few horse-drawn carriages on the road, and there were only public horse-drawn carriages with fixed routes. You could get to where you wanted to go by paying a penny as toll. The most people on the road, besides walking pedestrians, were people riding bicycles. Bicycle manufacturing technology was provided by Su Qingni, who also provided a lot of primary technologies that can be used in this world at this stage. There is also a tricycle that can be used for both passengers and goods. The shops on both sides are inlaid with glass. Nowadays, glass is no longer a product exclusively for rich people, but has become a cheap product that everyone can afford. A child ran past the old man with a stack of papers in his hand, shouting as he ran, "Newspapers for sale, newspapers for sale." Today's news: Yuan Qing country has established a country in America and will soon send envoys to Qing to establish diplomatic relations. The old man recognized the child. He heard that the Xinjiang government not only established an orphanage to accommodate orphans and widowed elderly people, but also let the orphans work as newspaper boys, and their daily job is to sell newspapers. The orphans make money from this job, so even if they leave the orphanage in the future, they will have money to support themselves. Today's news: Yuan Qing country has established a country in America and will soon send envoys to Qing. The shouting of the newspaper boy aroused the interest of many people. What is Yuan Qing kingdom? It is only one character different from our great Qing kingdom. It is a country founded by foreigners. The country name is in the foreign language. It is just that the translators translated the name into a name that is somewhat similar to our great Qing kingdom. No, I heard about it. Yuan Qing kingdom is called Yuan Qing kingdom, and the emperor there is from our great Qing kingdom. What? No way. Which brother is so powerful? I heard that the founding emperor of Yuan Qing kingdom is the brother of our great Qing emperor and prime minister, and the 8th son of Emperor Kangxi. Really? Awesome. Emperor Kangxi's sons are all very powerful. First there was the current emperor and prime minister, and now there is the founding emperor of Yuanqing Kingdom. The old man heard the discussion of the crowd, his face changed, and he immediately called the newsboy, rummaged in his pocket, took out 3 copper coins, handed them to the newsboy, and bought a newspaper. The newsboy took the copper coins and was stunned for a moment, but still put them in his pocket and continued to sell newspapers. The old man opened the newspaper and searched it, and soon saw the report about Yuanqing Kingdom. This report was written in great detail, starting from the landing of the 89 three princes in America, describing how they competed with other foreigners for territory, built their own territory, rescued the natives of America from the hands of foreigners, won the support and recognition of the natives, and finally seized all the territory of South America and established Yuanqing Kingdom. Old 8, Old 9, Old 10. The old man muttered in a low voice, with a complicated expression on his face. When he was complacent about getting the throne, the 89 three people had already made up their minds to create their own foundation and become the founding monarch who was not inferior to their ancestors. When he only focused on the small piece of land in China, 13 had already opened his eyes to the world, which led to him no longer recognizing himself as a king. Was his life a failure? Ha ha, ha ha. The old man laughed, but it was definitely not a happy laugh. His laughter made people feel very uncomfortable. At this time, a woman walked in front of the old man. The woman looked about 40 years old, with a beautiful face and graceful demeanor. It can be seen that she was a great beauty when she was young. The old man looked up at the showgirl, was startled at first, and then calmed down. "Are you here to kill me?" the old man asked. He was not afraid of death, but now that he was like this, living was more painful than dying. Living and watching the Qing dynasty getting better and better, and seeing the establishment of the Yuanqing Kingdom, would only make him more clearly aware of how much of a failure he was in life and that he was no match for his brothers. This was the most unbearable thing for him. "I originally came to kill you, but seeing how you look now, I changed my mind." The woman smiled. "Your life is more painful than death, why should I kill you? Seeing you like this now, I'm very happy. As long as you are happy." The old man only said lightly, and seeing that the woman had no intention of killing him, he simply turned around and left. Not long after walking, the old man was stopped by a middle-aged man. "Fourth brother, long time no see." The old man looked at the long line of carriages behind the middle-aged man, who seemed to be going on a long journey, and asked, "Where are you going?" The middle-aged man said, "Of course I'm going to Yuanqing Kingdom to seek refuge with Brother B. When I get there, I'll ask Brother B to let me be a general again. Brother B must be much more generous than you." After that, the middle-aged man waved his hand and left with his wife, concubines, children and men. The old man looked at the back of the middle-aged man and snorted coldly. "Do you really think that the 8th is a saint?" The 14th brother used to plot against the 8th, thinking that the 8th didn't know anything. Still want the 8th to reuse him? Dream on. The old man walked around the street for a long time, and clearly saw the changes in the capital. He didn't know what he felt in his heart. He walked slowly towards his home. His home was in the Forbidden City, but there was no longer the majesty that symbolized the imperial power in the past. His back was so hunched under the setting sun. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284, Qing Dynasty 42. The middle-aged beautiful woman watched the old man leave. Her eyes were extremely complicated. Love and hate were churning in her heart, and she wanted to chase him for a moment, but she finally held back. The middle-aged beauty turned and walked in another direction. She walked to the outside of her house in Dongcheng district. She looked at the house with a complicated expression. She had lived here for many years. Here she completed the most important stage of getting married and having children as a woman, but all this was just built on lies. The middle-aged beautiful woman closed her eyes, suppressed the emotions that were almost surging, and resolutely turned and left. She walked to another house not far from here. Seeing that the iron general that had been hanging on the gate of the house was gone, the middle-aged beautiful woman was happy, and immediately pushed the door and rushed into the yard. Under the big tree in the yard sat a woman who looked younger than her. On the stone table in front of the woman was a small red clay stove and a set of tea sets that looked very simple, and she was making tea. The fragrance of tea was curling and refreshing. The middle-aged beautiful woman was startled. Although the woman looked familiar, she was not someone she recognized, let alone someone she was looking forward to. Who was she? The woman looked up and saw the beautiful middle-aged woman. She smiled politely. "Miss Lu, long time no see. How about having a cup of tea together?" The beautiful middle-aged woman, Lu Ying, walked to the stone table, sat down opposite the woman, and asked, "Who are you? How do you recognize me? What is your relationship with Ashu? Where is Ashu?" So many questions, which one should I answer first? The woman smiled and poured a cup of tea in front of Lu Ying. Lu Ying did not take the teacup, but just stared at the woman and asked, "Who are you?" The woman smiled and said, "My name is Su Qingni. I wonder if Miss Lu still remembers this name." Lu Ying frowned and searched for this name in her memory. Finally, she found a similar name in the corner. "Are you the legitimate daughter of Lord Su?" Lu Ying said, "Aren't you dead?" In her memory, this Miss Su died just after being arranged to marry after the selection in the capital. Many people said that she was unlucky. Su Qingni smiled. "Rumor has it that Miss Lu was also killed by the fourth prince himself. But you are still alive." Lu Ying, you have deceived everyone in the Su family. Su Qingni shrugged her shoulders. What if she deceived them? She taught the next generation of the Su family martial arts so that they could grow up healthily and have the ability to stand on their own feet. This was considered a favor from the Su family and a remedy for the cause and effect. "Do you know my nephew Lu Shu?" Lu Ying asked. Su Qingni nodded. "I took in a few orphans to help me get off topic, and Lu Shu was one of them." Lu Ying was very surprised. You are Su Qingni." Su Qingni smiled and nodded. Lu Ying was incredulous. "How is it possible? You don't look like Su Qingni at all. What about now?" Su Qingni said, using her internal force to change the muscles on her face, and immediately changed her appearance. Seeing the appearance she had seen once before, Lu Ying opened her mouth wide and didn't close it for a long time. After a long time, Lu Ying exclaimed, "How amazing!" She looked at Su Qingni, no longer worried and looking down on her at the beginning, but full of awe. This woman is too extraordinary, even more powerful than herself. Not to mention martial arts, this disguise is a lost art, and she actually knows it. If she had learned the disguise art at the beginning, would she have killed Kangxi to avenge herself? If she knew the disguise art, would she not have been entangled with that person for half her life? But now Kangxi has become, there is no point in thinking about it, so she should ask the question that worries her the most. "Miss Su, where are Shu and my son now? Are they okay?" "Very well, don't worry." Su Qingni said, "They are not on the Qing dynasty. When you sent the child to Shu, we were afraid that Yongzheng would come to our house, so we took the child on the fleet to the west and went to Europe. Shu and others settled down in a country called Switzerland on the European continent. Later, he married a local girl and has 2 sons and a daughter. Your son is also very healthy and should get married now." Lv Ying's tears flowed down. Hearing that her son grew up safely, she finally put her mind at ease. Over the years, in addition to wanting revenge, she thought about her son the most. She was actually very worried that her son would have an accident. After all, her son was less than 1 year old when he left her, and then he had to run away with his cousin. The hardship along the way was not something a baby could bear. The possibility of premature death is not small. She has been worried that her son will have an accident. Now hearing the news that her son is safe, Lv Ying finally vented all her worries. Su Qingni took out a handkerchief and handed it to Lu Ying. Lu Ying thanked her and took the handkerchief to wipe away her tears. Su Qingni asked, "Are you going to look for them? Maybe if you go now, you can still catch up to help your son find a wife." "I'm going." Lu Ying said hurriedly, "Please tell me their address." Su Qingni told Lu Shu's address to Lu Ying. Lu Ying didn't stay any longer and left very quickly. Now that the Qing dynasty has lifted the ban on sea voyages, there shouldn't be too many fleets going out to sea. Within 2 days, Lu Ying found a fleet heading to Europe, waiting for them to leave the Qing dynasty together. Su Qingni walked out of the gate and strolled around the capital. The capital today is really different from before, but the overall architecture has not changed much. What has changed is the people and the atmosphere of the whole society. The faces of everyone on the street are no longer numb, but look forward to the future, their backs have straightened up and are no longer bent. She walked to a restaurant, which Su Qingni was very familiar with. It was Shen Filao. When the 9th prince left the Qing dynasty, He handed over some of his businesses to the 13th prince. Now Shun Fulao is the 13th prince's business. Sir, please come in. The waiter warmly welcomed Su Qingni into the restaurant, asked Su Qingni's opinion, and took her to the second floor. Su Qingni. Su Qingni heard a gritting voice, which sounded familiar. She turned her head and looked over, only to see a handsome middle-aged man standing at the stairs on the third floor, glaring at her with gritting teeth. That attitude was as if he wanted to eat her. Oh. Su Qingni was dumbfounded. Why are you here? When did you come back? If she had known that this man had returned to the Qing dynasty, she would have changed her appearance when she went out. You are not dead after all. The ninth master rushed down from the third floor angrily and grabbed Su Qingni's arm. Now that I have caught you, you can't escape. Chapter 285 Mountain God 1. When Su Qingni left this world, she took out a ball of light from the ninth prince. After returning to the Lich world, she sent the ball of light to Bizet. After practicing in the Lich world for a while, Sui asked you to start your journey again. I am the dividing line of crossing to the new world. The world I came to this time is a very interesting world. There are gods in this world, but they are not gods that are cultivated like the prehistoric world, and they are not gods on the list of gods. The gods in this world are the embodiment of the laws of the world. They are born and raised by nature. They have their own divine beauties at birth and have to perform their own functions. They are mountain gods, land gods, wind gods, water gods, gods of harvest. There is no heaven in this world, and the gods naturally have no status. They are all equal. However, there is a projection of the underworld in this world, so there are naturally gods like the city god. Su Qingni had just come to this world, and her law was condensing into shape. Su Qingni put her consciousness into it and became a new god, the mountain god of a certain mountain. It is really great not to have to stand on someone else's body and bear the cause and effect of others. Even better, because of her status as a deity, this world could accommodate her considerable spiritual consciousness and power, and a quarter of her spiritual consciousness entered this world. As a mountain god, Su Qingni's duty is to bless the mountain where she was born, the plants and animals in the mountain, and the villagers in the village at the foot of the mountain. There is not much to do, and most of the time it is very leisurely. After occasionally helping a few lost villagers return to the village, the people in the village spread the rumor that there was a mountain god in the mountain. Soon after, the villagers worked together to build a mountain temple halfway up the mountain. The statue in the temple was very rough, but when the statue was placed on the altar, Su Qingni felt that she had a connection with the statue, and the appearance of the statue had changed dramatically. The rough statue became delicate and majestic, and its appearance was 7 points similar to Su Qingni's. Seeing this scene, the villagers shouted the mountain god appeared, and all knelt down in front of the statue and kowtowed to it. Su Qingni saw a little golden light floating on them and flew towards the statue. Su Qingni grabbed with one hand, and all the golden rays fell into her palm. These golden rays are the power of faith of the villagers. The gods of this world can absorb these powers of faith to improve themselves. However, these powers of faith are useless to Su Qingni. She has a quarter of the strength of her original body in this world, which is already the highest energy that this world can accommodate. She is now the strongest existence in this world, so why does she need the power of faith to practice? If she wants to practice, she should return to her original body and practice. Moreover, she will not use the power of faith to practice. When she was still immortal, she read some novels. The novels said that the power of faith is poisonous to the gods and will make them addicted, but once the power of faith backfires, the damage to the gods will be very great. Su Qingni cast a spell, and the power of faith turned into a soft green light and returned to everyone. The villagers who were kneeling down felt a coolness on their bodies, and then they felt extremely comfortable. Those who were originally sick now had all their illnesses gone. Those who had old cold legs no longer had leg pain, and pregnant women felt that the babies in their bellies were more energetic. It's a gift from the gods. The old village chief exclaimed in surprise. His eyes were a little blurry, but now they became clear. Thank you, mountain god. Thank you, mountain god. Everyone kowtowed more devoutly, and Su Qingni gained more power of faith. She simply stored these powers of faith for later use. Although she was a mountain god, Su Qingni was not confined to the 1/3 acre of land where the mountain was located. She could wander around, and there was no place in the world where she could not go. This was different from other gods who had responsibilities. Other mountain gods and land gods could only stay in their own territories. Only when the gods gathered every 10 years would they leave their territories and go to the Holy Land of the Gods, a place in the sky, where they would stay for a month and communicate with their companions. So, in her spare time, Su Qingni would run around, looking for the extremely yin place in this world. In the process, Su Qingni met many gods. These gods were surprised that Su Qingni, a mountain god, could leave the territory and run around, but they all received Su Qingni warmly and happily interacted with her. They could only get together with their companions once every 10 years, and the rest of the time they could only be alone. No, a god, and it was lonely. Now that there is a god who can run around and make friends with him, and invite him to chat, drink tea and taste wine every once in a while, wouldn't it be more fun? Su Qingni understood the thoughts of these gods, was willing to make friends with them, and promised these gods that she would visit them from time to time, which won the gods a deeper favor. When leaving these gods, Su Qingni received a lot of specialties from the gods. Fortunately, this world has a lot of power, and she smuggled high-end storage tools such as storage bracelets into this world. With a wave of her hand, all the specialties were put into the space, and Su Qingni was on the road again easily. On the way, Su Qingni met another god, the god of wind. Wind has no domain restrictions and is free, so the god of wind can also run around. He knows more gods than Su Qingni, and has the best popularity among the gods. The god of wind is called Fengyu, with green hair and the face of a young man of 18 or 19 years old. He is lively and cheerful and very talkative. Knowing that Su Qingni can also run around, Fengyu is very happy. He pulls Su Qingni as a companion and takes her to meet other gods along the way. Fengyu is a very good companion. With him along the way, the journey becomes very interesting. Fengyu's best friend is Lin Kang, who is also a mountain god. Lin Kang is a mountain god born at the beginning of the creation of this world. He is very powerful and can be on par with Su Qingni in this world. Because of his strong strength, he can also leave his territory to act, but due to the rules, he can only leave a short distance and can only leave his territory within 1,000 miles. Lin Kang looks like he is about 24 or 25 years old and has a very handsome appearance. His beauty transcends gender, and even men who see him will praise him from the bottom of their hearts. Beauty. Su Qingni admitted that she was a face lover. Because of Lin Kang's appearance, she went to Lin Kang's territory most diligently and would go to Lin Kang's territory to drink tea with him every once in a while. Fengyu was the same. This child always said that his best friends were Su Qingni and Lin Kang, because these two gods were the best looking among all the gods. Chapter 286 Mountain God II. Qingni, the wine you brew is the best. Fengyu said to Su Qingni flatteringly. Su Qingni laughed and understood what this kid wanted to do. Well, Fengyu rubbed his fingers, you drank up the wine you gave me last time. So fast. Su Qingni was surprised. She gave Fengyu 50 jars of wine. Or the big jars that can hold 200 kilograms. Fengyu laughed and said, well, don't I have many friends? Su Qingni, did you share the wine with every god you know? Fengyu nodded, I am not a god who keeps things to myself. If there are good things, of course everyone will share them. Su Qingni was speechless. Fengyu's friends are all over the world, no wonder the wine was drunk up so quickly. But this made her very worried. Fengyu's friends also have many of her friends. She can imagine the situation when she meets those friends next time and they ask her for wine. The problem is that the wine she brews now is not enough for the gods to share. Alice, all of it will be used to brew wine in the next period of time. Su Qingni looked at Fengyu who was still staring at her eagerly. Well, let's get this guy to help. Want wine? Fengyu nodded repeatedly. Su Qingni, but I don't have much wine anymore. Fengyu's handsome face fell. Su Qingni curled her lips slightly. I can only make more wine, but I can't handle it alone. Fengyu was fooled. I'll help. Su Qingni smiled. Okay. Fengyu scratched his head. He was fooled. That? Fengyu rolled his eyes and spoke. What? Su Qingni saw what Fengyu was up to. Fengyu laughed and said, Qingni, you have to make more wine this time. In another year, it will be the day to go to the Holy Land for a gathering. At that time, everyone will definitely ask you to bring wine to the Holy Land. If you don't bring it, everyone will be very disappointed. Su Qingni. Su Qingni looked at Fengyu's expression with a look of turning the tables, and she felt a toothache. Is she going to become the exclusive winemaker of these gods in the future? No way. When the party comes, she will give the winemaking recipe to each god. If they want to drink, They can brew it themselves. Don't forget, you are my helper. I will be busy brewing more wine, and so will you. Feng Yu. Oh my, this is a pit for myself. Feng Yu followed Su Qingni pitifully and worked hard. It took half a month, and the two of them brewed more than 10,000 jars of wine in total. A large part of those wine-making materials were taken by Feng Yu from other gods. The materials in Su Qingni's hands were not enough for her to brew such a large amount of wine. When other gods heard that Su Qingni was brewing wine, they were very happy to take out the materials. Haha, when the wine is brewed, they will have a share. Seeing Feng Yu collapsed on the ground tired, Su Qingni pulled the corner of her mouth. This guy is too exaggerated. It would be strange for a god like him to be as tired as a dead dog. Qingni, you see how tired I am to help you, can you give me more wine? Feng Yu asked. So he was waiting for her here. But this guy is Su Qingni's best friend. Although he enslaves Feng Yu wantonly, Su Qingni is still generous in giving good things to Feng Yu. I'll give you 100 jars this time. Su Qingni said with a smile. Feng Yu jumped up from the ground and circled around Su Qingni. Qingni, you are so nice. I love you to death. Su Qingni smiled in response. Su Qingni didn't take Feng Yu's words I love her to death to heart. Although Feng Yu was born tens of thousands of years ago, his mind is still like a child. He doesn't understand the love between men and women at all. For Su Qingni, he doesn't regard her as a goddess at all, but only as a friend, a good friend, without a trace of feelings beyond friendship. And Su Qingni is so tolerant and even a little doting on Feng Yu, naturally treating him like a child. Feng Yu happily left with 100 jars of wine. Su Qingni taught Feng Yu how to make storage equipment, because there are gods in this world, and storage equipment is not restricted by rules. As long as there is a way to make it, it can be made. Now, under the spread of Su Qingni and Feng Yu, the gods in this world all have their own storage equipment. However, these storage equipment are very low level, and the space capacity is not as large as the space of Su Qingni's storage bracelet, and is only 2 or 3 times that of the storage bag. Feng Yu took the wine with him, not knowing whether to show off or find a place to drink it himself. Su Qingni also filled 3 jars of wine and left her territory. Let's go see the handsome man. When she came to Niangniang's territory, Su Qingni saw him sitting under the pine tree on the top of the mountain. There was a stone table and several stone benches under the pine tree. There was a chessboard on the stone table, and the chessboard was dotted with chess pieces condensed by divine power. Next to the stone table sat a handsome man, playing chess with himself. Su Qingni stood aside and did not disturb him. She leaned against the trunk of a big tree, took out a pot of wine, and admired the handsome man while drinking. The people playing chess were immersed in the game and seemed not to notice Su Qingni's arrival, allowing Su Qingni to admire the handsome man to her heart's content. After an unknown amount of time, the game was finally over. The handsome man pulled his mind back from the game and saw Su Qingni standing beside him. Why didn't you call me when you came? The handsome man smiled and greeted Su Qingni. That smile was like a blooming spring flower, so beautiful. Even though Su Qingni had seen so many beauties, she couldn't help but choke when she saw this smile, wanting to immerse herself in it. Fortunately, Su Qingni's consciousness was strong, and she calmed down and smiled back. Seeing that you are playing chess seriously, I can't bear to disturb you, so I might as well be a woodcutter who watches chess with a broken K. Watching chess with a broken K. Lin Kang was puzzled. There was no records of strange things in this world, nor was there an allusion to watching chess with a broken K. This is a legend I heard from mortals. Su Qingni briefly talked about the allusion to watching chess with a broken K, and Lin Kang's eyes lit up when he heard it. This story is interesting. But the saying that one day in the mountains equals 100 years in the world is too exaggerated. Even if we are gods, we cannot control time. Lin Kang said. Su Qingni smiled and said, perhaps gods from other worlds can do it. Other worlds? Lin Kang was puzzled. Su Qingni, maybe there are other worlds outside this world, what do you think? Lin Kang frowned, I don't know. Su Qin, can you imagine it? Lin Kang is a good seedling. If he can break the shackles of this world, he may be able to go to other worlds and gain more powerful power. Maybe, he can see Lin Kang again in the prehistoric world. Su Qingni patted Lin Kang on the shoulder, think about it carefully. Originally, I came here to find beautiful women and wine, but now I better leave the beauty a private space to think about things. Su Qingni left 3 jars of wine and left Lin Kang's territory. Chapter 287 Mountain God I. More than a month later, Su Qingni received an invitation from Linkang to go to Linkang's territory. The first time Su Qingni saw Linkang, she found that he had changed a little. Although his divine power had not increased, his realm had been improved, which had exceeded the understanding of this world. Su Qingni said to Linkang, "Congratulations." Linkang showed a happy and sincere smile to Su Qingni. "Thank you for your advice. I am grateful for your kindness. If you need my help in the future, just ask." The beauty smiled, and she was so beautiful that she could overwhelm the country. It was really pleasing to the eyes. Su Qingni was itching to bring the beauty back to the lich world so that she could see her often in the future. The two sat at the stone table, brewed a pot of tea, and talked while drinking tea. The days passed in the game of chess until Fengyu came to find the two. "The time for the party has come." The three of them flew to the sky together. Looking far away, many figures flew up from the ground and flew to the same place in the sky. However, everyone used divine power to cover up, and mortals could not see the gods. Otherwise, seeing a group of them in the sky, wouldn't it be a mess? There is a barrier outside the Holy Land, and it is not that the gods cannot enter the barrier. There are gods stationed in the Holy Land for a long time. Like Fengyu, they do not have their own territory due to their duties, so they have lived in the Holy Land since they were born. It is their turn to perform their duties. For example, when there is a good harvest in the human world, the god of harvest will leave the Holy Land and go to the human world. When the human world does not need them to perform their duties, they will stay in the Holy Land and take care of the Holy Land, by the way, responsible for the task of organizing the gathering every 10 years. Fengyu has his own residence in the Holy Land. He took Su Qingni and Linkang to his residence. Before the bench was warmed up, a god came to visit. Although Fengyu has a good relationship with people, no one came to visit him every time he had a gathering. So Fengyu and Linkang looked at Su Qingni. Su Qingni touched her nose. She guessed the purpose of the visit of the gods, and Fengyu and Linkang also guessed it. Su Qingni waved her hand, and hundreds of wine jars appeared in the room, occupying half of the room. Sure enough, the gods who came to visit were all for the wine brewed by Su Qingni. Although each person only got a jar of wine, the gods were still happy. Because Su Qingni gave them a very detailed method of brewing wine, they took it back and brewed their own wine. Even if they couldn't brew the same delicious wine as Su Qingni, the taste should not be much different. This time, all the gods came to the party. Su Qingni recognized all the gods, and those gods became friends with her because of the wine she brewed. Therefore, the most popular thing was not Su Qingni and Fengyu themselves, but the wine brewed by Su Qingni. The so-called party is that everyone gets together to drink and chat, and sees a god volunteer to perform a show in the center of the venue. Linkang plays the flute very well. Every time he gets together, he will be pushed out by his friends to perform a song for everyone. Linkang never plays the songs he has performed before. He plays his newly composed songs, which are refreshing. Fengyu is the most active. He stepped forward to perform a dance. It's really like the wind, sometimes gentle and sometimes violent, light and agile. After Fengyu finished dancing, he began to urge Su Qingni to perform. "Linkang and I have performed, so you should also perform one, right? We are good friends, and we should do everything together." Fengyu said. "Are you a kindergarten kid? Together? Do you want to go to the toilet together?" Su Qingni said unhappily. "What is kindergarten? What about going to the toilet?" Fengyu asked in confusion. "Nothing." Su Qingni was too lazy to explain to Fengyu, so as not to disturb her ears, she simply walked to the center of the venue, condensed a guqin with her divine power, and began to play. Su Qingni did not have Linkang's musical talent, and could not compose and perform by herself, so she played a famous song on earth, high mountains and flowing water, and received a lot of applause. This gathering was quite pleasant for the gods. A month passed quickly, and the gods had to leave the Holy Land and return to their own territory. Su Qingni went with Linkang, and Fengyu was left behind by his companions in the Holy Land. This guy was running around all day, and the gods in the Holy Land finally caught him and must keep him in the Holy Land to do hard labor. When to leave the Holy Land depends on Fengyu's own means. Her house is very clean, and it is not covered with dust because she has been away for more than a month. This is the cleaning done by the fairies in the mountains. Su Qingni did not ask the fairies to help her, but these fairies and the animals and plants that have opened their spiritual wisdom will take the initiative to help Su Qingni, in return for Su Qingni's blessing on them. Among them is a fox demon, who is the most beautiful and the smartest. I don't know where she learned a good cooking skill. After seeing that Su Qingni likes food, she often comes to cook for Su Qingni. This time when Su Qingni came back, the table in the house was already full of delicious food. There are spells, and the food is still hot. Su Qingni ate a delicious meal and came to the bathtub behind the house. Hot bath water was already prepared in it, and flower petals were floating on it. Su Qingni couldn't help but twitch her lips. Where did you see it from? And sprinkle flower petals in the bath water. A beautiful girl revealed her figure. Although she is a fox demon, this fairy named Miro does not have the slightest foxy temperament. Instead, she looks extremely pure. This is what I saw when I was peeping at the lives of the ladies in the city. When they take a bath, they sprinkle flower petals in the water, and then their bodies will be stained with the fragrance of flowers. Miro said proudly, with an expression that looked like she was about to praise me. Your cultivation is too weak. Don't always go to the city. If humans discover your identity, they will kill you and skin you to make scarves. Su Qingni threatened the girl. Miro has very good cultivation qualifications. If she can calm down and practice hard, she may be able to cultivate into fox fairy. There is no heaven in this world, and even if she cultivates into fairy, she cannot ascend to heaven and can only stay in the mortal world. But changing from a demon to fairy is like an illegal household getting an ID card. Taoist priests and strange people in the mortal world can no longer use demons to exorcise demons against them. Of course, the status of a fairy is still not as high as that of a god. But Miro can't calm down and practice hard. She yearns for the human world and is very curious about it. Su Qingni feels that sooner or later this child will fall because of this curiosity. I just don't know if this fall will endanger her life. Miro shrank her neck, but she was not scared. She thought she was smart. How could she be discovered by humans? My lord is really worrying too much? My lord, don't you like to put flower petals in the bath water? Miro asked. It's unnecessary. Su Qingni rolled up the flower petals in the water under Miro's regretful eyes and threw them out of the bathroom. Chapter 288 Mountain God 4. Miro didn't take Su Qingni's words to heart, and still liked to run to the human world. She even became good friends with a rich lady in the city. The rich lady was very beautiful, and her father wanted to marry his daughter to a high-ranking official to gain benefits for the family. But the rich lady already had someone she liked, and would rather die than marry a powerful person. Miro was moved by the love between the rich lady and her lover, the scholar, and helped the two to escape and elope. The rich lady's father found out that his daughter had eloped with someone, and sent people to hunt down his daughter and the scholar. Miro stepped forward to stop the pursuers, and was discovered to be a demon. The rich lady's father asked a Taoist priest to help catch the demon, and Miro was seriously injured. But the good thing is that the rich lady and the scholar had already fled far away, and the lady's father could no longer catch them back. Miro ran to Su Qingni's yard with wounds all over her body, and fell to the ground and couldn't get up as soon as she entered the yard. Su Qingni walked out of the room, looked at the little fox that had turned into its original form, sighed, waved her right hand, and the magic power transformed from the stored power of faith flew into the little fox's body, repairing the little fox's injuries. In just a blink of an eye, the little fox's injuries were all healed. The next moment, the little fox turned into a beautiful girl in her 20s. Thank you for saving my life, sir. May you kowtow to Su Qingni. If I didn't do it or you couldn't hold on to come to me, you would have died. Su Qingni said, do you regret it? Regret that you almost died for others. May you shook her head fiercely, no regrets. I am only happy that Miss Li can live happily with her beloved. I have done a good thing. Seeing May Ruo's smug and happy look, Su Qingni softened her heart and did not point out the bad nature of human beings for her. There are many stories about rich ladies and scholars, but the endings are often not very good. You have seen how powerful the Taoist masters are this time. You must practice well in the future. You will not be hurt by them when you are strong enough. Su Qingni warned Miro. Miro nodded vigorously, and she was still scared when she thought of the Taoist masters. Those people were really powerful. She was almost killed by them. She should listen to the mountain god and practice hard. She will go down the mountain when she is strong enough and not afraid of the Taoist masters. Miro calmed down and put most of her energy into practice. She had good aptitude, so her practice improved quickly. However, the time of fairies and humans is different. Miro practiced in seclusion and felt that her strength had greatly increased. She wanted to go down the mountain to see how the rich lady was doing. A month later, Muriel returned to the mountain. She could not find the rich lady. 30 years had passed since she practiced in seclusion, and the rich lady had passed away long ago. Muriel felt the difference between fairies and humans for the first time. One day, Muriel prepared a table of delicious food for Su Qingni. Before she had time to eat, a gust of wind blew in. Su Qingni sat down at the table as usual, and sure enough, she saw that there was already a person sitting on the other side of the table, stuffing the food into his mouth. This time was very different. Did Feng Yu comment on the food while eating in the past? Why did he just eat and drink this time? What happened? Su Qingni asked. Feng Yu, who was always cheerful, had this expression, and something very important must have happened. Liu Shan is dead. Feng Yu said sullenly. How is it possible? Su Qingni was shocked. Liu Shan is a god. How could he die? He didn't want to live anymore, so he died. Su Qingni. Gods are the embodiment of the rules of this world. They are immortal and cannot be killed by anyone. Unless this world is destroyed, they will die, or they choose to die. Otherwise, they coexist with the world. What happened? Su Qingni asked in a deep voice. I really don't believe that someone like Liu Shan would choose to die. Liu Shan's personality is just like his name, kind as water, very gentle to people, and has the best temper among the gods. Would such a god choose death? Feng Yu sighed and said, Liu Shan fell in love with a human woman. The two lived happily for decades, and then the woman died. So Liu Shan chose to commit suicide for love. Su Qingni thought Liu Shan had a problem with his brain, right? Humans can be reincarnated. He can look for the reincarnation of that woman and continue their love. Feng Yu said, he looked for her and found her. It's just that. It's just that although the soul is the same after the reincarnation of a human, it is not the same person, and even the feelings are different. Not only does the reincarnation of that woman have no memory of her previous life, but her personality and hobbies are completely different. She even fell in love with another man. Liu Shan realized that his lover would never come back, so he chose to end his life. Su Qingni. Su Qingni, I always thought Liu Shan was water, but I didn't expect him to be a volcano buried under the water. Too decisive, so decisive that it makes people feel depressed. Gods are not human beings. Human beings can reincarnate after death, but gods are the embodiment of rules and have no souls. When they die, they are completely dead and completely dissipated between heaven and earth. Su Qingni felt bad thinking that she would never see the gentle male god again. She could understand Feng Yu's feelings at this time. In addition to eating and drinking, what else can be done? Even using wine to commemorate Liu Shan can't be done. Su Qingni picked up the chopsticks and started to eat. The whole table of delicacies was soon eaten up by the two of them. Feng Yu collapsed on the chair with his hands on his stomach. Su Qingni took out the tea set and started to make tea. Amid the faint aroma of tea, Feng Yu spoke, Qingni, do you think Liu Shan will be the last one? Su Qingni did not stop her movements, and said lightly, it's hard to say. Gods are lonely, they also want someone to accompany them. But human life is too short, and companionship is only temporary. So, it's better not to be sincere at the beginning. But how can you get others' sincerity without giving your sincerity? Giving your sincerity to a human with a short lifespan is to seek death? Yes. You can change your partner. What? Find a partner who is also a god, or a goblin with a longer lifespan. Su Qingni made her own suggestion, I prefer to find a god as a partner. Everyone has the same lifespan as the heaven and the earth, and can be together for a long time. How great it is. Two gods with adjacent territories get together, and gods without adjacent territories can find gods like you who can run around. In this way, all problems are solved. Feng Yu. It sounds so reasonable. How about we make the next gathering of gods a blind date meeting? Chapter 289 Mountain God 5. After the matchmaking conference, several pairs of gods did get together. However, Feng Yu, Su Qingni and Lin Kang are still single. Su Qingni will not look for a partner in the small world, and Feng Yu and Lin Kang have no intention of looking for a partner. Feng Yu can run around and does not feel lonely at all, and does not need a partner. Lin Kang can stand loneliness and does not think there is any benefit in having another partner. The three of them lived their lives as before, and hundreds of years passed in the blink of an eye. Su Qingni occasionally showed up, changed her appearance and went to her mountain temple. After hundreds of years, the mountain temple, which originally had only one room and one statue, has expanded to 5 rooms, with an additional courtyard and a temple priest. There is not only one village at the foot of the mountain, but 5 or 6 villages have been built around the foot of the mountain, and each village has more than 100 villagers. These villagers know that the mountain temple is effective and often go to the temple to burn incense. The incense in the temple is pretty good. The power of incense can also help the gods practice. Similarly, Su Qingni did not absorb it for cultivation, but collected it like the power of faith, leaving it for later use. Today is not a festival, nor is it a slack season. No one comes to the temple, only the temple keeper is cleaning the yard. The temple keeper is an orphan. His father died in an accident before he was born. His mother was devastated and died after giving birth to him. The temple keeper was born with a reputation of being unlucky for his father and mother. Even his grandparents and relatives were unwilling to raise him, fearing that he would be killed by him. So, the temple keeper, who had just been born, was abandoned in the mountains by his relatives. Su Qingni found the child and asked Miro to send the child to the mountain god temple, making a spiritual event, and let the temple keeper at that time raise the child. The temple keeper received the order from the mountain god and naturally raised the child with all his heart. Miro sympathized with the child and often sent some mountain specialties to the temple. When the temple keeper saw the mountain specialties that suddenly appeared, he felt that the child was blessed by the mountain god and treated the child better. The temple keeper was already quite old at the time. He raised the child until he was 15 and then died. The child took over his job and became the new temple keeper of the mountain temple. Now the new temple keeper has been in office for 5 years and is already a 20-year-old man. Although he is respected by the villagers because of his identity as a temple keeper, no one is willing to marry their daughter to the temple keeper because of his reputation of being a jinx to his father and mother. Therefore, the temple keeper is still a single dog, and still an older single dog. After all, the ancients got married early, and those who were not married at the age of 20 were already leftover men. Zhao Sui. Su Qingni greeted the temple keeper. She appeared in front of people in a different image every few years. Everyone thought she was from a nearby village and didn't know that Su Qingni was the mountain god. The temple keeper didn't know that Su Qingni was the god he admired. He remembered the name of everyone who came to the mountain temple to burn incense. The first time Su Qingni appeared in the mountain temple in this image, the temple keeper asked Su Qingni's name and got to know Su Qingni. Mr. Su, are you here to burn incense at this time? Zhao Sui put down the broom and responded to Su Qingni. It was Su Qingni who gave him his name. When she picked up Zhao Sui, it was the time when rice was in ear stage, so Su Qingni gave him this name. Well, come and see it when you have time. Su Qingni smiled and said to Zhao Sui, you don't have to greet me, I'll burn some incense, walk around and leave. Zhao Sui ignored Su Qingni and continued to sweep the fallen leaves in the yard. Su Qingni walked into the hall and saw her statue as soon as she looked up. She smiled and walked to the table on the left against the wall. There were 2 baskets on the table. One basket was filled with long incense and the other basket was filled with a few copper coins. Su Qingni took out 2 copper coins and threw them into the basket of money, took 3 incense sticks from the other basket, lit them and inserted them in front of the statue. The incense she burned for herself actually had the power of incense, and it was extremely pure. Su Qingni collected this strand of incense power and kept it separately. After burning incense, Su Qingni walked around the hall for a few times. If she found anything inappropriate, she would use her magic power to remove it. Although the temple was protected by her divine power and evil things could not enter the temple, it was inevitable that some humans would accidentally bring darkness into the mountain temple. The power of incense in the statues can help humans get rid of the darkness on them, but some darkness is not easy to completely eliminate, so it is left in the temple. Although it can no longer harm humans, it is not good to let it stay in the temple. After finishing the work, Su Qingni was about to leave when she saw a girl walking in from the door. Su Qingni immediately stopped and stood by the wall to look at the girl carefully. The girl was about 15 years old, with a beautiful appearance, and was a little beauty. This was not enough to attract Su Qingni's attention. What attracted Su Qingni was that the girl had traces of time on her body, specifically traces of retracing time. In other words, this girl was reborn. Lord Mountain God, the believer Zhang Songwen, beg you to bless the Zhang family with good health and longevity. Su Qingni listened to the girl's prayer. This prayer was no different from the prayers of ordinary people in the temple. Su Qingni thought that the girl had something else to say. Sure enough, she heard the girl say again, please, Lord Mountain God, Bless Mr. Liu Hongxin to marry a wife who is close to him, and not to have a wife like he had in his previous life, and even have no biological children to see him off in his old age. Su Qingni raised her eyebrows. This Liu Hongxin should be Zhang Songwen's sweetheart, right? She didn't even pray for herself to marry Liu Hongxin, but just prayed for Liu Hongxin to marry a close friend. Is this love deep or not? Su Qingni was curious about what Zhang Songwen had experienced in her previous life and what kind of relationship she had with Liu Hongxin. It was decided to go to Zhang Songwen's dream tonight and use the dream returning method to see Zhang Songwen's previous life. At night, everything was quiet, and Su Qingni's figure appeared in the yard of a farmer's house. She found the right direction and entered one of the rooms. The girl lying on the bed in the room was Zhang Songwen. Su Qingni stretched out her finger and pointed at Zhang Songwen's forehead. The next moment, the changes in the environment around her had already appeared in Zhang Songwen's dream. Zhang Songwen's previous life was very simple. She was a peasant girl. She got married at the age of 16 and married to a neighboring village. Her husband was a peasant, and she never left the peasant family in her life. Fortunately, the conditions of her husband's family and her parents' family were not bad. There were no natural disasters or man-made disasters in her life, and she lived peacefully until old age. The only thing that was not simple in her life was that before she got married, she fell in love with Liu Hongxin, a son of a Jiren official, who did not match her family status. She even fought with a girl from a neighbor's house for Liu Hongxin. Chapter 290 Mountain God VI. Seeing the situation in Zhang Songwen's dream, Su Qingni couldn't help but smack her lips. What's wrong with this world? How can there be a reborn girl in a time-traveling girl? Is this world a world formed by a novel? The theme is the love between a time-traveling peasant girl and a nobleman? Zhang Songwen, a native, didn't know the origin of the neighbor who fought with her, but how could Su Qingni not see it? This one is a time-traveling girl? In Zhang Songwen's previous life, Wei Zhilin was smart and clever since she was a child. Since she was 3 years old, she has helped her parents and grandparents with ideas and taught them how to make money, making the Wei family's life better and better. Wei Zhilin's brothers can go to the academy to study. As a woman, Wei Zhilin can't go to the academy. She can only study with her brother after her brother comes home, and then read books by herself, but her mastery of books is even better than her brother, so that the Wei family brother will study harder for his sister to surpass him, and then he passed the examination for a scholar at a young age, and later passed the examination for a jinchi, changing the family status of the Wei family and becoming an official family. Wei Zhilin is more talented than her brother. She occasionally creates 1 or 2 poems, which are classic and popular, such as I wish you a long life, and we can share the beauty of the moon even though we are thousands of miles apart. If life is just like the first meeting, why does the autumn wind make the fam sad? People's hearts change easily, but they say that people's hearts change easily. After so many years, the good times and beautiful scenery are gone. Even if there are thousands of customs, who can I tell? Wei Zhilin became famous for these poems and was praised as a talented woman. Just after she came of age, the people who came to her house to propose marriage almost flattened the threshold of her house. Wei Zhilin is a very opinionated person and has high standards. She rejected all the proposals and took a fancy to a young man. This young man was saved by Wei Zhilin. The parents of the Wei family didn't know that there was a man hidden in their daughter's room. Wei Zhilin had physical contact with this man and even got pregnant with this man's child. But Wei Zhilin was unhappy with this man, and finally let her parents pick a family at random and married him. And that family was none other than the family of Liu Hongxin, whom Zhang Songwen liked. On the wedding night, Wei Zhilin got her husband drunk and made it look like they were actually married. Since then, she has been using the excuse of not feeling well to keep Liu Hongxin away, and then people discovered that she was pregnant, let alone having sex with Liu Hongxin. She thought she had done it perfectly, but she didn't know that Liu Hongxin was very smart and had realized something was wrong, and found out that his wife had cheated on him before they got married. Liu Hongxin discovered through clues that the biological father of Wei Zhilin's child was the third prince, and that his family was not a powerful family, and the third prince could destroy the Liu family with just one word. Liu Hongxin was so angry that he had to pretend that he hadn't discovered anything, and endured Wei Zhilin, an unfaithful woman, as his wife, and had to raise the daughter of Wei Zhilin and the third prince. The reason why Wei Zhilin was unhappy with the third prince was because she knew that the third prince already had a princess, and she could only be a concubine to the third prince. How could the self-proclaimed superior time traveler tolerate this? In a rage, she made the absurd decision to marry another man. Of course, she regretted it not long after. But the engagement had been made, and she could only marry into the Liu family unwillingly. At this time, she still had fantasies about the third prince, thinking that as long as her husband did not get close to her and she kept her body clean for the third prince would take her to his side. At this time, she also figured it out. When the third prince became emperor in the future, there would definitely be many women in the harem. She could not be the only woman of the third prince, so she would be a favorite concubine. She did not think that since she was married, the third prince could not openly take her into the palace. The third prince was indeed still interested in her, but he would only interact with her secretly, so her dream of being a favorite concubine could only be a dream. Later, Wei's Helen got older, and there were endless beauties around the third prince, so he lost interest in her and never came to see her again. Wei's Helen regretted it at this time and wanted to live with Liu Hongxin in peace, but how could Liu Hongxin accept her? In the end, Liu Hongxin lived a lonely life because he married Wei's Helen, and there was no one to hold his spirit after his death. Zhang Songwen was Wei's Helen's neighbor and the same age as Wei's Helen. She accidentally discovered what Wei's Helen had hidden from her family. Knowing that Wei's Helen had her lover's son but wanted to marry Liu Hongxin to harm Liu Hongxin, Zhang Songwen did something that broke her character for the first time, beating Wei's Helen like a fierce woman in the village. Of course, for the sake of her own reputation, Zhang Songwen could not say that she beat Wei's Helen for the sake of another man's injustice. Wei's Helen thought that Zhang Songwen beat her because she was jealous of her. After rebirth, Zhang Songwen did not have the idea of compensating for regrets like other reborn people, nor did she think of becoming Liu Hongxin's wife. She was very clear about the gap between her family and the Liu family, and the gap between herself and Liu Hongxin. She liked Liu Hongxin and felt sorry for Liu Hongxin's experience. She could only pray to the gods to let Liu Hongxin not marry Wei's Helen again, but marry a close woman who loved him and was worthy of him, have a few children, and live a happy life. After experiencing rebirth, Zhang Songwen is more convinced and pious to the gods. What she can't do herself, naturally, is to pray to the gods. This girl has a good temperament. Su Qingni has a good impression of Zhang Songwen, and smiled slightly. In fact, you can be Liu Hongxin's confidant. Su Qingni left the Zhang family and walked towards Liu Hongxin's house following Zhang Songwen's dream memory, wanting to see with her own eyes this man who has been wearing a straw hat all his life. From Zhang Songwen's memory, Liu Hongxin is a very talented and very smart good man, even better than the third prince, and Wei's Helen is not worthy of him at all. Of course, this is Zhang Songwen's beautification. What kind of person is it? Su Qingni wants to see with her own eyes. With a thought, Su Qingni has entered Liu Hongxin's bedroom. Liu Hongxin is still a teenager now, about the same age as Zhang Songwen, and his appearance is as good-looking as Zhang Songwen's memory. If he is not good-looking, it will not make the girl remember him for a lifetime. Seeing this boy, Su Qingni's mouth corners curled higher. Interesting, too interesting. Is this world a sieve? There was a reborn girl, a time-traveling girl, and now there is a reborn boy. Is there a time-traveling boy? Liu Hongxin has the same traces of time as Zhang Songwen, and the traces of time are much deeper than Zhang Songwen. This person has been reborn more than once. Interesting, too interesting. Su Qingni laughed. Just because it was so interesting, she would help Liu Hongxin and Zhang Songwen. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291 Mountain God 7. Su Qingni entered Liu Hongxin's dream and checked his memories of his previous two lives. Zhang Songwen's previous life was Liu Hongxin's first life. Liu Hongxin was greatly harmed by Wei's Helen in this life. Wei's Helen not only put a straw-colored hat on Liu Hongxin, but she was also a double-standard dog. The third prince had many women, and she accepted it with grievance, but for Liu Hongxin, her nominal husband, she did not allow him to have other women. She herself did not sleep with Liu Hongxin, nor did she allow Liu Hongxin to have a mate or concubine. Otherwise, she would despise them for being dirty. In order to keep Liu Hongxin's body clean, Wei Zhilin gave Liu Hongxin a medicine to purify his heart and make him lose interest in that kind of thing. This is why Liu Hongxin had no descendants to see him off after his death. Fortunately, the Liu family had more than one son, Liu Hongxin, otherwise the incense of the Liu family would have been cut off by Wei Zhilin. Then it was Liu Hongxin's second life of rebirth. In this life, Liu Hongxin naturally could not marry Wei Zhilin again. He regarded Wei Zhilin as an enemy, the third prince, and also Liu Hongxin's enemy. Liu Hongxin would not let these two people be proud. In this life, Liu Hongxin was optimistic about another prince, secretly served him, and helped him with strategies. With his own wisdom in reference to the things in his previous life, Liu Hongxin successfully helped the prince to ascend to the throne. The third prince failed and became a stray dog. Without the support of the third prince, Wei Zhilin was divorced by her husband in this life and made public what she had done. Wei Zhilin was despised by everyone, and the Wei family was also implicated because of her, and their reputation became worse. No one in the family was willing to marry the girls. The sisters-in-law resented Wei Zhilin, and her brothers and parents were talked about a lot by everyone, and their attitudes towards Wei Zhilin gradually changed. Later, Wei Zhilin was also driven out of the Wei family. The second half of life is very difficult. Liu Hongxin's marriage seemed to be cursed. He did not marry Wei Zhilin in this life, but the wife he married was also not good. In this life, Liu Hongxin married the daughter of the governor of education who admired his talent. The governor of education was a third-rank official. His daughter was of noble birth and had a noble character. She thought that she had a high status and would marry into a noble family in the future. She might even be able to enter the palace or become a prince's wife or something like that. But she didn't expect that her father would marry her to a poor scholar, whose status was not comparable to that of the husbands of other sisters. How could the arrogant daughter of the governor of education be willing to do this? It was just that her father made the decision, so she had to marry even if she didn't want to. Because she didn't want to, the daughter of the governor of education didn't live peacefully with Liu Hongxin after getting married. She looked down on her father Liu, who was only a scholar teaching in the academy, and her mother Liu, who was only the daughter of a scholar, and had no respect for the two elders. Because Liu Hongxin knew about the changes in the court, he didn't think about being born so early. He only joined the fifth prince secretly and didn't participate in the joint examination. He was always a scholar. This made the daughter of the governor of education even more dissatisfied, and she looked down on Liu Hongxin even more, making the Liu family restless. Liu Hongxin originally wanted to live a good life with his wife in this life, give birth to his own children, and make up for the regrets of his previous life. But the behavior of Zhu Zhangqianjin made Liu Hongxin give up. He felt that maybe he was destined to be lonely until old, so he could not marry a virtuous and good wife in both lives. Then accept your fate. As for finding a concubine and a maid to give birth, because he was used to being pure and unselfish in his previous life, Liu Hongxin was not keen on that kind of thing. His wife was not good, he would not touch his wife, and he was not in the mood to touch other women. In this life, when Liu Hongxin died, he still had no descendants to see him off. Then, Liu Hongxin was reborn again. It was this life, the life in which Zhang Songwen was reborn. Now, Zhu Zhang has expressed his appreciation for him, but Liu Hongxin is still a scholar and has not passed the imperial examination. Zhu Zhang has not revealed his intention to marry his daughter to Liu Hongxin. Liu Hongxin went home this time to let his parents help him quickly choose a girl from a family and get married. In this way, Zhu Zhang will not marry his daughter to him. Liu Hongxin told Madame Liu that he wanted to marry a girl of lower birth but good character. In this life, he was not interested in the so-called daughters of high families and talented women, so he decided to marry a wife of lower status and easier to control. Madame Liu has been helping her son choose someone these days, but Liu Hongxin asked her to find someone of lower status, but Madame Liu did not agree. How could a girl from a farmer's family who could not even read be worthy of her excellent son? Madame Liu looked for girls from the same family. However, Liu Hongxin had heard of or seen these girls in his previous two lives. Some of them were the wives of his good friends, and he could not rob them of their wives. Some of them had been heard from others that they had bad temperaments or had no means to manage the family, and each had their own shortcomings. Liu Hongxin rejected these candidates one by one. Finally, Madame Liu chose Wei Zhilin. Although Wei Zhilin was born in a farming family, her elder brother and younger brother were very competitive. The elder brother passed the examination for a scholar, and the younger brother passed the examination for a student. With these two brothers alone, the future prospects of the Wei family will be extraordinary, and it is very likely that the family will change. Wei Zhilin herself is a talented woman, and I believe she will have a lot in common with her son. From this point of view, Wei Zhilin is the best choice for her son. Madame Liu excitedly told Liu Hongxin about this choice. Liu Hongxin was shocked and hurried to stop Madame Liu. He didn't know whether Wei Zhilin had a private affair with the third prince at this time, but in order to dispel Madame Liu's decision, Liu Hongxin told the story of Wei Zhilin's affair with the third prince. He also told Madame Liu that it was related to the prince, so as to avoid retaliation, she must not tell this matter to other people. Madame Liu was frightened by the identity of the prince, and nodded repeatedly to indicate that she would never disclose the matter between Wei Zhilin and the third prince. Afterwards, Madame Liu was distressed. All the candidates she had chosen were rejected by her son. Without a candidate, who would her son marry? Otherwise, the marriage would be delayed until her son passed the imperial examination and the range of people who could be selected would be expanded. Maybe he could pick out a daughter-in-law that his son liked? Liu Hongxin said no, and said that the academician intended to marry his daughter to him. Madame Liu thought this marriage was a good one, a daughter of a rich family. Wouldn't her son be satisfied? Of course not. Liu Hongxin didn't mind exaggerating his ex-wife's bad habits and telling Madame Liu about them. Madame Liu was frightened and gave up the idea of letting her son marry a daughter of a rich family. It would be a shame to marry such a daughter-in-law to be the ancestor. It's better not to marry her. So, she had to arrange a marriage for her son as soon as possible, but there was no suitable candidate. Madame Liu had a headache and didn't know what to do. Later, she listened to the words of the maid next to her and decided to go to the mountain temple to pray to the gods for guidance. Chapter 292 Mountain God 8. Su Qingni smiled slightly after receiving Mrs. Liu's prayer. That night, Mrs. Liu had a dream. In the dream, the mountain god appeared and gave her guidance, telling her who her future daughter-in-law would be. The next day, Mrs. Liu told Liu's father and Liu Hongxin about the guidance of the mountain god on the dream. Liu Hongxin was stunned. Because of the Confucians, he does not talk about strange things. Liu Hongxin did not believe in ghosts and gods in his previous 2 lives. Although he heard that the mountain temple was very effective, he still did not believe it very much. However, he was reborn twice. Such a strange experience made him wonder if there really were gods, and if the gods gave him the opportunity to be reborn many times. This time, the mother dreamed that the mountain god appeared. Could it be that the mountain god really came to guide them? If I had prayed to the gods from the beginning in my previous life, would there be no unhappy marriage? Liu's father naturally believed in the gods. Although he heard that his future daughter-in-law was just an ordinary peasant girl, since the gods said that she was the most suitable wife for his son, they would definitely help his son marry her. After breakfast, Liu's father and mother asked the servants to invite a matchmaker to the Zhang family to propose marriage. The Zhang family was just an ordinary farmer's family. When they heard that the matchmaker was proposing marriage for Liu Zhiren's son, Zhang's father and mother thought that the matchmaker had gone to the wrong house and that she should go to the Wei family next door. You're right. The matchmaker smiled and said, Liu Zhiren and Mrs. Liu are attracted to your daughter. They think your daughter is virtuous and capable, well-behaved and sensible, much better than the girl from the Wei family who always likes to show off outside. Zhang's father and mother heard that they had not found the wrong person, and they were very happy to hear the Liu family praise their daughter so much, and they immediately agreed to the marriage. Not long after, the two families exchanged engagement letters and made a marriage contract. Liu Hongxin didn't know that Zhang Songwen liked him. He didn't know Zhang Songwen. The only impression he had was that Zhang Songwen had fought with a girl named Zhang from the neighbor's house before marrying him in the first life. Since he didn't get along with the Wei Zhilin, Liu Hongxin recognized Zhang Songwen, thinking that he would be nicer to her when Zhang Songwen married. Of course, there is no more. Liu Hongxin, who has experienced 3 lives, has no feelings for his wife. Zhang Songwen didn't react until Naji was completed. She was dizzy and thought she was still dreaming. She was engaged to Liu Hongxin? She was going to be Liu Hongxin's wife? Is this true? How could the Liu family like her? Although she hated Wei Zhilin, she had to admit that she was not as good as Wei Zhilin. Shouldn't the Liu family take a fancy to Wei Zhilin? How could it be her? Even if the Liu family didn't want to marry Wei Zhilin, there were many girls who wanted to marry Liu Hongxin. which one's family background was not better than hers and whose family status was not higher than hers. How could the Liu family choose her? Could it be? Zhang Songwen remembered that she went to the mountain temple to burn incense some time ago and prayed to the gods to give Liu Hongxin a confidant as his wife. Could it be that the gods thought that she was Liu Hongxin's confidant, so they facilitated the marriage between the Liu family and the Zhang family? The more Zhang Songwen thought about it, the more possible it was, and she was extremely grateful to the gods. She immediately used the money she saved from selling embroidery to buy a jar of wine, some fruits and a roast chicken, and went to the mountain temple to thank the gods. Su Qingni ate the roast chicken offered by Zhang Songwen and listened to the girl's voice. Although she was very happy to marry the person she liked in her previous life, Zhang Songwen knew herself that the gap between herself and Liu Hongxin was too big, and she felt that she was not worthy of Liu Hongxin. Apart from anything else, Liu Hongxin was a scholar, and she didn't even know the characters. How could she have a common language with Liu Hongxin in the future? Moreover, Liu Hongxin would definitely become an official in the future, and she was not qualified to be an official's wife at all. In her previous life, she went from a peasant girl to a peasant woman and then to an old lady in a peasant family. She had only a little knowledge. When she saw the county yamen runners and other insignificant officials, her legs would become weak. If she was asked to interact with other wives of officials, she would only be afraid. Forgive her for not being able to do it. Also, I heard that the wives of officials must be able to manage the household and keep accounts, but she doesn't have these skills. Marrying Liu Hongxin would only hold him back and make him be laughed at by others. She didn't know that Liu Hongxin had no expectations for his wife, and had never thought of letting his wife represent him in social activities. When he decided on Zhang Songwen, Liu Hongxin decided that Zhang Songwen, as his wife, only needed to give birth to a few children for him, and that she should live a good life at home at other times without showing up in front of others. He would not treat Zhang Songwen badly. In this case, she should not marry Liu Hongxin, right? After hearing Zhang Songwen's worries and troubles, Su Qingni sighed that this girl must love Liu Hongxin so much, right? She considered everything from Liu Hongxin's perspective, and praised Liu Hongxin highly, while she herself was humbled. This is not okay. With this mentality, she would not be loved by Liu Hongxin even if she married him, and she could only live a life of respecting each other like guests as Liu Hongxin planned. What kind of husband-wife relationship can't be cultivated? Don't even think about happiness. Since you feel that you are not worthy of Liu Hongxin, then you should work hard to make yourself worthy of him. Su Qingni spoke. Zhang Songwen. Her eyes were about to bulge out, staring at the statue on the altar, and asked carefully, Lord Mountain God, are you talking to me? Of course, there's only you in this temple. Who else can I talk to? Zhang Songwen looked around and behind her. The temple keeper was not on the mountain temple. There was no one else in the whole temple except her. Lord Mountain God, please give me some advice. Zhang Songwen blushed with excitement. The mountain god appeared and talked to her. Who has such an honor? The answer? Didn't I just say it? Try to make yourself worthy of Liu Hongxin. But Lord Mountain God, I don't know what to do to be worthy of Mr. Liu. Zhang Songwen said hurriedly. Su Qingni, learn to read and write, learn to manage the household and accounts, learn to play the piano, chess, calligraphy and painting, learn the diplomacy of a lady. The more Zhang Songwen listened, the gloomier her face became. After hearing what Su Qingni said, she said weakly, Lord Mountain God, even if I want to learn these, I don't know who to learn from or how to learn. Su Qingni snorted and said, since I brought it up, naturally I will teach you. You. Zhang Songwen couldn't believe it, her mouth opened wide, and she didn't respond for a long time. She fainted, even more dizzy than when she knew that Liu Hongxin was going to marry her. It was such an honor for Lord Mountain God to teach her personally. Who is so lucky as her? Is this the good luck brought by rebirth? Are you serious? Did I hear it right? Or am I dreaming? Zhang Songwen asked weakly. If you want to dream, wait until night. I will teach you the skills in my dream. Chapter 293 Mountain God 9. Zhang Songwen returned to her home dizzy as if she was walking on stilts. Sitting on the bed in her room, holding the basket of needlework, and seeing the unfinished wedding dress, Zhang Songwen felt that she was still in a dream and had not woken up from the dream. How could she be blessed and favored by the mountain god? The mountain god personally taught her skills? Exclamation mark. Was she overthinking it? Zhang Songwen couldn't believe it was true. At night, lying in bed, Zhang Songwen tossed and turned but couldn't fall asleep, and couldn't fall asleep. Or Su Qingni was impatient, and a spell was cast, and Zhang Songwen fell asleep. Zhang Songwen was originally staying in her bed in her room. Her room was very small and old, without electric lights, and it was pitch black, but she just turned over. How did she change places? The light in front of her eyes was bright, and looking at the surrounding environment, it was not in her shabby little room, but in a spacious, bright, rich and bookish room. This should be the study room of a wealthy family, right? Are you here? Let's start. A familiar voice entered Zhang Songwen's ears. This voice was the same as the voice she heard in the mountain temple during the day. Zhang Songwen looked in the direction of the voice and saw a beautiful woman with a fairy-like aura, who looked very similar to the statues in the temple. Lord Mountain God. Zhang Songwen immediately knelt down and kowtowed to Su Qingni. Su Qingni waved her right hand, and Zhang Songwen stood up freely. Stop talking nonsense, now I will teach you to recognize words. Su Qingni didn't say much nonsense, took out the textbook for children, and placed it in front of Zhang Songwen. At the same time, there were also pens, ink, paper and inkstone in front of her. I will only teach you once. How much you can learn depends on yourself. If you don't learn well, it's your own problem. Zhang Songwen was originally nervous and thinking about all kinds of things in her heart. After hearing Su Qingni's words, she didn't dare to think any more, and quickly concentrated her mind and listened to Su Qingni telling her the words and sentences in the book. Su Qingni spoke neither fast nor slow, and every word and sentence was explained in detail. Zhang Songwen thought she couldn't remember these words and sentences, but for some reason, her mind seemed to become very bright. Not only did she remember those words and sentences easily, but she also understood their meanings and kept them firmly in her mind. Let's stop here for today. Go. Su Qingni waved her sleeves after saying that. Zhang Songwen felt dizzy and suddenly opened her eyes. The great tent top, the morning sun shone through the window, making the room brighter, but the room was still shabby. This is her own room. Zhang Songwen closed her eyes, and what she learned in her dream yesterday was still clear in her mind. She suddenly opened her eyes and laughed silently. Great! She really learned skills from the mountain god in her dream. From that day on, Zhang Songwen learned skills from Su Qingni in her dream every day. During the day, she made wedding clothes in her room. While her hands kept moving, she silently recited what she learned in the dream to consolidate the knowledge she learned. When she was tired from working, she went to the yard and practiced writing on the ground with a branch. Half a year passed as Zhang Songwen worked hard and fulfilled her life. The wedding date of Zhang Songwen and Liu Hongxin arrived. Zhang Songwen and Liu Hongxin were both young. The reason why they got married so quickly was that the academician had revealed his intention to recruit Liu Hongxin as his son-in-law. In order to put an end to this idea, Liu Hongxin asked Liu's mother to quickly prepare for the wedding and marry Zhang Songwen into the family, taking the title of wife first. It was impossible for the academician to give him his daughter as a concubine, even if she was a concubine. However, considering that both of them were still young, Liu Hongxin also agreed with Liu's mother that they would not consummate the marriage. When the two were a little older, he would pass the imperial examination and consummate the marriage with his wife. Mainly because he had experienced 2 lives, Liu Hongxin had read more books and covered a wider range of fields. He had also read medical books and knew that it was not good for women to give birth too early, even for their children, and the children born would be weak. He wanted a healthy heir, so he naturally waited until his wife was older and at the right age for conception. So, when Zhang Songwen shyly entered the house to welcome her wedding night, what she received was a notice to sleep in separate rooms from her new husband. Zhang Songwen felt lost for a moment, but she quickly sorted out her emotions. She thought that the Liu family was very considerate of Liu Hongxin because Liu Hongxin wanted to study hard for the imperial examination and did not want to be distracted by matters between men and women. Of course, when she fell asleep, she couldn't help showing her loss. Su Qingni comforted her in a good mood and said that it was best for women to give birth after the age of 18. Zhang Songwen let go of her loss. The next day, Zhang Songwen appeared in front of the Liu family without any complaints. This performance satisfied the Liu family, and even Liu Hongxin recognized this wife. Life after marriage is better than when she was at home. The Liu family's life was better than the Zhang family's. There were servants to serve them. Zhang Songwen didn't have to do much work. In addition to accompanying her mother-in-law and taking care of her husband's food, clothing and daily life, she had more free time. Zhang Songwen collected the waste paper used by Liu Hongxin and Liu's father, and collected the small pieces of ink that they didn't want. She put water in a bowl to dissolve it. When she had time, she practiced calligraphy with a brush that Liu Hongxin had used and the hair had fallen off. After half a year, Zhang Songwen had finished learning the content of elementary education and started to learn the 4 books and 5 classics. Su Qingni occasionally taught her the knowledge of housekeeping and accounting. Now if Liu's mother handed over the affairs of the Liu family to Zhang Songwen, she might manage it better than Liu's mother. Liu Hongxin returned home from the prefectural school with brisk steps. The academician felt very sorry when he knew that he had married, but because he had never made it clear before, he couldn't blame Liu Hongxin, and naturally couldn't make things difficult for Liu Hongxin. He also took a fancy to another student and arranged a marriage with that student's family. That student was not from a poor family, his family had some background. I think the daughter of the academician would not dare to show off in that family. Haha, he knew that the mother of that student was not a good person, and the academician's daughter would not have an easy life if she went to that family. Liu Hongxin walked into the house with ease and walked towards his study. He passed by the room where Zhang Songwen lived. Because the window was open, Liu Hongxin could see the scene in the room. His young wife, who came from a peasant family and had never been to school, was holding a brush and practicing calligraphy on paper. Liu Hongxin was very surprised and lifted the curtain and walked into the room. Zhang Songwen was concentrating on writing and did not notice Liu Hongxin entering the room. Liu Hongxin walked to Zhang Songwen's side and stretched his head to take a look. Chapter 294 Mountain God 10. In a graceful and elegant handwriting, the paper was written with an article from the Book of Shang. There was no book next to it, which meant that Zhang Songwen had memorized this article by heart, so she could write it out. Liu Hongxin could not help but be surprised. He had made a mistake. His little wife was very capable. Thinking of the wife he married in his previous 2 lives, Liu Hongxin realized that he had made a mistake in 3 lives. Was there really something wrong with his vision? How can you read and write? Liu Hongxin said. Zhang Songwen was shocked. The brush shook, and a drop of ink fell, leaving a black spot on the paper. Putting down the brush, Zhang Songwen hurriedly looked up and saw Liu Hongxin's scrutinizing eyes, and she panicked. Afraid that Liu Hongxin would think badly of her, she quickly told him about Su Qingni teaching her skills in her dream. But she still didn't mention the rebirth. Liu Hongxin, you said that the mountain Gao taught you skills. Zhang Songwen nodded vigorously. Liu Hongxin bent the index finger of his right hand and rotated the joint twice at his temple. The mountain god appeared. The mountain god instructed his mother to choose Zhang Songwen as his wife, and the mountain god taught Zhang Songwen skills. Was it his family that was blessed by the mountain god or his wife? No matter which one it was, it seemed that he was the one who benefited. In his first life, he fantasized about having a talented and virtuous wife who could speak the same language as him, but he was disappointed. He was also disappointed in his second life. In this life, he had no hope, but the gods sent her to him. Liu Hongxin felt a little happy in his heart for a while, but he was more upset. Was it because he disrespected the gods in his previous 2 lives that he ended up with no one to see him off to the end? It definitely won't happen in this life. A wife blessed by the gods will definitely give birth to healthy children and have descendants around her. Seeing his wife looking at him with a nervous look, Liu Hongxin pulled the corner of his mouth, revealing a beautiful smile, and said gently, "Don't practice calligraphy with waste paper in the future. There is no shortage of pens, ink, paper and inkstone at home. I will prepare an extra one for you." Zhang Songwen's heart returned to its original place, and she also smiled, and her smile was very beautiful. Liu Hongxin found that his wife in this life was very beautiful. Although she was not as beautiful as Wei Zilan in the first life, she was not much different, and was much more beautiful than the daughter of the academician in the second life. God still cares about me. Liu Hongxin murmured, and then asked Zhang Songwen softly, "What did you learn from the mountain god? Can you tell me?" "I learned a lot." Zhang Songwen boldly reached out and took Liu Hongxin, and took him to sit on the chair. The two faced each other, and Zhang Songwen talked about learning arts in her dream. "First, I learned to recognize characters and elementary knowledge, and then the 4 books and 5 classics. Occasionally, I learned to manage the household and account, and I also learned piano, chess, calligraphy and painting." "You can play piano, chess, calligraphy and painting? Liu Hongxin asked, feeling very surprised. Zhang Songwen blushed and said embarrassedly, I only learned the basics. Although I know the rules of Go, I am not very good at it. The handwriting you just saw is only neat and not good. The same goes for painting. I can draw a few strokes, but not well. But in terms of appreciation, the mountain god said that I have talent and asked me to learn more. I can only play simple songs on the piano. Very good. Liu Hongxin was very happy. Even those young ladies from wealthy families may not be able to do everything. Just like Wei Zilin, she won the title of a talented woman by writing poems, but she was not good at playing chess, calligraphy and painting. She can't play the piano, and she only knows a few rules when playing chess. Let alone painting, it's like a ghost painting. The handwriting is not as beautiful as Zhang Songwen's. Sometimes he doubted, were those poems really written by Wei Zilin? You have to know that some of the artistic conception in the poems cannot be explained even by Wei Zilin, the original creator. Since then, the relationship between Liu Hongxin and Zhang Songwen has been getting better and better. Except for the fact that they have not yet consummated their marriage, the two are a loving couple, and they are quite inseparable. At first, Liu's father and mother were worried that their son would be too obsessed with his love affairs and delay Liu Hongxin's studies, but after knowing that Zhang Songwen also understood the 4 books and 5 classics and could discuss knowledge with their son, they were relieved. Liu's mother was even happier and went to the mountain temple to thank the gods for giving the Liu family such a good daughter-in-law. Mid-Autumn Festival, enjoy the lanterns. The Liu family had dinner half an hour in advance. Liu's father and mother rested, and Liu Hongxin took Zhang Songwen out to go shopping and enjoy the lanterns. The street was very lively, and there were many people shopping and enjoying the lanterns, many of whom came from nearby villages to enjoy the lanterns. 2 days before and after the Mid-Autumn Festival, the city gates would not be closed at night, and people from nearby villages could stay in the city until late at night. Liu Hongxin took Zhang Songwen to enjoy the lanterns while guessing the lantern riddles. The two competed to see who could guess more and more accurate riddles. Zhang Songwen naturally favors Liu Hongxin, and Liu Hongxin secretly gives in to him. The two of them are very happy. At this moment, Liu Hongxin saw someone he didn't like, and his expression drooped. Her mind has always been on her man, and Zhang Songwen immediately noticed when Liu Hongxin did something wrong. Following Liu Hongxin's line of sight, Zhang Songwen's face darkened when she saw a couple being affectionate. Husband, let's go over there. Zhang Songwen pulled Liu Hongxin, wanting to take him away from Wei Zilin and the third prince. Liu Hongxin followed Zhang Songwen's force and followed her, with a guess in his heart. Madam, have you known about the matter between Wei Zilin and that man for a long time? Zhang Songwen said my mother's family is adjacent to the Wei family. As long as we are attentive, we can all notice some of the things that happened in the Wei family. Zhang Songwen has not yet realized the doubts in Liu Hongxin's words. You must know that Liu Hongxin has never married Wei Zilin in his life, so how did he know Wei Zilin? Moreover, the tone of his questioning about Wei Zilin's relationship with a man was really creepy. Zhang Songwen kept talking about Wei Zilin, wanting Liu Hongxin to recognize Wei Zilin, and worried that Liu Hongxin would be deceived by Wei Zilin's beauty and talent again. Although she is Liu Hongxin's wife now, and Liu Hongxin treats her very well, what if Liu Hongxin falls in love with Wei Zilin again? That man is Wei Zilin's lover, and they have been secretly dating for almost a year. The man's identity seems to be not simple. That Wei Zilin is very good at pretending, don't be fooled by her appearance. Zhang Songwen said worriedly. Liu Hongxin saw Zhang Songwen's nervous expression and couldn't help laughing, and his bad mood became better. Don't worry, I won't fall for such a woman. He remembered that in his first life, he heard about Wei Zilin and Zhang Songwen fighting. At that time, he had just been engaged to Wei Zilin. Chapter 295 Mountain God 11. Liu Hongxin put his mouth close to Zhang Songwen's ear. Did you already like me before you got engaged to me? Zhang Songwen's face flushed all of a sudden. What else did Liu Hongxin not understand? He was happy and regretful in his heart. He regretted that he didn't know that there was a woman who really liked him in his previous 2 lives. She even did something unruly and criticized for fighting with others for her sake. It was a pity that he had missed her all the time, and only married her with the help of the gods in this life. Liu Hongxin suddenly stretched out his hands and took Zhang Songwen into his arms. Songwen, I will never let you down in this life. Zhang Songwen was slightly stunned. Hearing this, she was so happy and moved that she shed tears. Lord Mountain God, I feel so happy. In the crowd, Su Qingni, who was eating delicious snacks with Feng Yu, heard this voice, looked in the direction of Zhang Songwen and smiled. Although he helped Zhang Songwen's happiness depends entirely on herself. The knowledge and skills were acquired through her own hard work. This was just a means to attract Liu Hongxin's attention. What really made Liu Hongxin fall in love with her and accept her was her sincere feelings for him that had never changed. After 3 lifetimes of intrigue and deception, what Liu Hongxin cared about most was that little bit of sincerity. He smiled and raised his right hand, flicked his fingertips, and a blessing transformed from the power of faith flew to the two of them. Liu Hongxin let go of Zhang Songwen, held Zhang Songwen's left hand with his right hand, and walked with her. Both of them had happy smiles on their faces. Although they didn't speak, the strong warmth between them made everyone who saw them envious. After walking down a street and turning a corner, they came to the gate of the city god temple. There was a large square in front of the city god temple, which was even more lively. There were jugglers performing juggling, and there were also opera singers who set up a stage to perform short plays. This place can be described as a sea of people. There was no place to get in. It was harder than climbing to the sky to squeeze in to watch juggling and listen to opera. Seeing this, Liu Hongxin and Zhang Songwen all gave up their thoughts of watching the acrobatics and listening to the opera. The two just turned around and looked up, and saw Wei Zilin and the third prince again. Disgust flashed in Liu Hongxin's eyes. He looked at the third prince, and there was no murderous intention in his heart. This man gave him a straw hat in the first life, but he was killed by him in the second life. The two were even. However, his disgust and resentment towards Wei Zilin did not decrease at all. It was not that he still cared about Wei Zilin, but being given a straw hat was something that any man could not tolerate. Liu Hongxin could not help but sneer. In order to prevent Wei Zilin from being proud of the power of the third prince, it seemed that the third prince should not be allowed to ascend to that position. This kind of thing is simple to sit on. As long as the development of the previous life is followed, the other princes will know the calculations of the third prince at the critical moment. In this life, for the expectations of his parents and the expectations of his clansmen, he will enter the officialdom, but he will no longer be as scheming as in his previous life and only know how to climb up. In this life, he would choose an easy official position and live a comfortable and happy life. He would not rely on a certain prince to be his private staff. Being such a staff is actually walking a thin rope on a cliff. It is too dangerous. Knowing too many sinister calculations of the master's family in secret. If you don't get out of it accidentally, your life may be in danger in the end. In the previous life, he cleverly escaped before the fifth prince succeeded in taking the throne, and another staff who had been competing with him ridiculed him. What was the result? After the fifth prince ascended the throne, he never saw that staff again. In this life, he has someone he wants to cherish, so he naturally cherishes his life more and will not rely on the fifth prince again. He will not rely on any prince. Not long after the Mid-Autumn Festival, he heard the news of Wei Zilin's engagement, and Liu Hongxin and Zhang Songwen felt disgusted after hearing it. Zhang Songwen was happy that Liu Hongxin would not be harmed by Wei Zilin, and she couldn't help but sympathize with the other taker. What's wrong? Are your eyebrows furrowed? Liu Hongxin stretched out his fingers and rubbed between Zhang Songwen's eyebrows to smooth out her frown. Zhang Songwen asked Liu Hongxin, "Do you know which family Wei Zilin is engaged to?" Liu Hongxin answered this question and asked his wife, "You don't want to remind that family and ask them to cancel the marriage, right?" Zhang Songwen nodded, "No." Liu Hongxin smiled and shook his head, "Not to mention whether that family believes the news we leaked. Even if they know, they can't easily cancel the engagement." "Why?" Zhang Songwen was puzzled. "Because of the third prince." Liu Hongxin said, "If the matter is exposed, even if the third prince and Wei Zilin are at fault, that family will end up badly. Wei Zilin can also take advantage of the situation to enter the third prince's mansion, and the third prince may vent his anger on that family. What kind of perverse logic is this? Why should the victim suffer instead?" Zhang Songwen didn't understand. She thought about how Liu Hongxin had tolerated Wei Zilin for his whole life and his previous life, and even though he knew about the affair between the third prince and Wei Zilin, he did not divorce Wei Zilin. Was it because of this idea? Then it is the innocent people who are destined to suffer. Zhang Songwen was very indignant, for the innocent family in this life, and even more for Liu Hongxin in the previous life. "Liu Hongxin, do you want to help that family so much?" Zhang Songwen whispered, "I have a feeling that if you hadn't married me first, you would have been the one who would have been harmed. I'm angry for you." Liu Hongxin was stunned, and he looked at Zhang Songwen in surprise. "Did the gods tell you this?" Zhang Songwen nodded quickly and pushed the blame to Su Qingni. Yet, Liu Hongxin was horrified and became even more awed by the gods. Liu Hongxin calmed down and said, "Since you want to help that family, then help them." Zhang Songwen blushed and shook her head. "Forget it. If we anger the third prince, we will be in trouble. Besides, we are just common people and do not have the ability and power to fight against a third prince." Liu Hongxin held Zhang Songwen's hand tightly and said, "The third prince is not without enemies. As long as we use his enemies, we will not only avoid getting ourselves involved, but also get rid of that family. Leave this matter to me." Zhang Songwen said to him, with complete trust in Liu Hongxin on her face. Liu Hongxin was overwhelmed and pulled Zhang Songwen into his arms. Zhang Songwen was busy with Liu Hongxin every day and did not think about Wei Zilin anymore. About 2 months later, when she went to talk to Liu's mother, she heard about Wei Zilin from her mother. Wei Zilin broke off the engagement with her engaged family and was taken to the palace by the third prince in a sedan chair. Such a simple way of entering the palace shows how much the mistress of the palace dislikes Wei Zilin. Chapter 296 Mountain God 12. Fortunately, the mountain god guided my son to marry you. Otherwise, if Hongxin was betrothed to a woman like that, Hongxin's life would be ruined. Liu's mother was still in shock, and was glad that she listened to her son and did not choose Wei Zilin as her daughter-in-law. That Wei Zilin has already had a secret pregnancy with a third prince, but she still shamelessly wants to marry another man. Liu's mother was full of disdain for Wei Zilin and sympathy for the family that Wei Zilin was betrothed to. The son of the Zhao family was pointed out and laughed at by others because of Wei Zilin, and now he dares not go out. Liu's mother sighed. Zhang Songwen said, "Although he is pointed out and laughed at now, it is better than marrying someone and discovering Wei Zilin's true face in the future, right? After a few years, people will forget about this matter, and the man of the Zhao family will be able to marry and have children and live a peaceful life. Much better and luckier than Liu Hongxin in his previous life." In his previous life, no one sympathized with Liu Hongxin, and no one secretly helped him get rid of Wei Zilin and the third prince. Thinking of this, Zhang Songwen felt even more distressed. She personally made a nourishing chicken soup and sent it to Liu Hongxin's study. Liu Hongxin looked up from the book, looked at his wife's beautiful face and gentle smile, and the corners of his mouth curled up. Wei Zilin's life was not easy. When she had to be carried into the third prince's mansion in a sedan chair, her pride as a time traveler was shattered by the various means used by the women in the third prince's mansion, and the third prince turned a blind eye. She thought she was special, but the ancients naturally looked down on women. The third prince's previous difference in her was just that he felt she was fresh and interesting, and wanted to get the modern knowledge in her mind from her. However, she was an ordinary person, and even if she knew the recipes for making glass cement and soap, it was only because of the blessing of the time travel novels, and she didn't know more. The third prince couldn't get good ideas from her. After the novelty wore off, he treated her like other women, and there was no difference in her. Wei Zilin was unwilling to accept this. How could a time traveler like her end up so miserable, being bullied by other women and treated like an ordinary woman by the man she liked? She was not an ordinary woman. She would prove herself. "Since you have no intention, I will give up." Wei Zilin decided to abandon the third prince and choose a new man. Perhaps there really was a time traveler who blessed her, and she met another handsome guy. This handsome guy was originally her admirer, and these handsome guys collected the poems she wrote. After this handsome guy named Zhu Yan knew Wei Zilin's situation, he felt pity for her and expressed more than once that he wanted to take Wei Zilin away, even at the cost of exposing his identity. It turned out that Zhu Yan was the staff of the third prince on the surface, but he was actually loyal to the fifth prince, and was arranged by the fifth prince to be by the third prince's side. This identity should have been very secret, and once exposed, he would be killed by the third prince. But Zhu Yan did not hesitate to expose his identity in front of Wei Zilin for her. Wei Zilin was deeply moved and immediately turned to Zhu Yan's arms. Through Zhu Yan, she established a relationship with the fifth prince and leaked some of the third prince's secrets to the fifth prince. Before entering the third prince's mansion, Wei Zilin participated in some of the third prince's affairs because of her excellent ability and knew some of the third prince's secrets. Now, Wei Zhilin has sold all these secrets to the fifth prince. The fifth prince used these secrets to hit the third prince hard. However, the fifth prince knocked the third prince down, but he was no match for the other princes. This time, the fifth prince did not have the help of Liu Hongxin, who was familiar with the future process. His strength was slightly weaker, and he could not compare with the joint suppression of the eldest prince, the second prince and the fourth prince, and he also had a tendency to lose. Since the third prince fell, Zhu Yan took Wei Zhilin back to the fifth prince. Now that the fifth prince is about to lose, he, as a staff member, is anxious. Wei Zhilin was worried about her lover and decided to help. After knowing that Zhu Yan had instigated the fifth prince to mutiny and that he would die if he failed, Wei Zhilin took out the formula for gunpowder. The fifth prince and Zhu Yan attached great importance to the formula. After seeing the power of gunpowder, they looked at each other and felt that their decision to use the beauty trap to lure Wei Zhilin into their camp was the right one. The third prince was a fool. Since Wei Zhilin could come up with a formula for making glass soap, she must have other recipes. The third prince thought that he had dug out all the secrets of others, which was simply stupid. With a magic weapon like gunpowder, the fifth prince thought that he would succeed 100% and launched a mutiny. But the result disappointed him. The gunpowder didn't work at all. The fifth prince died, and Zhu Yan died. Wei Zhilin became a beggar. She could not return to the Wei family. When she left the third prince's mansion, the Wei family removed her from the family tree. Wei Zhilin sat at the foot of the city wall and looked at the sky. She couldn't understand why the gunpowder was working well during the test, but it failed when it was used. I think gunpowder is too harmful and this world doesn't allow gunpowder to exist. A voice sounded beside her ear, and then a figure suddenly appeared in front of her, turning from virtual to real. Although this figure was fairy-like and good-looking, Wei Zhilin's first impression was, ghost. Wei Zhilin screamed and shrank back, but there was a city wall behind her, and she couldn't get away from the figure even a centimeter. The figure stared at Wei Zhilin and screamed coldly, as if watching a clown performance, which made Wei Zhilin feel indignant and her fear was reduced accordingly. She stopped screaming and asked sternly, "Who are you? Are you a human or a ghost?" "I am a mountain god," Su Qingni said lightly, "the god of this world." "God?" Wei Zhilin was surprised. Are there really gods in this world? There are many legends about gods in this world, but Wei Zhilin does not believe them. She thinks that gods are just made up by people in this world. "I am a god." Wei Zhilin stared at the woman in front of her. Well, she looked like a fairy, but if she really said that this person was a god, Wei Zhilin was unwilling to admit it. If there are gods in this world, why not her? She is a time traveler. She is the highest existence. Are you a god? What do you want to talk to me about? Wei Zhilin asked. I just happened to pass by here, heard what you said, and answered your question. Su Qingni said. What's your question? Wei Zhilin asked. Then she remembered what she had muttered to herself before. Is it you who caused the gunpowder to fail? If it wasn't me, it would be another god. Su Qingni said lightly. I said that gunpowder is too harmful to nature. The rules of this world do not allow the existence of gunpowder. Outsider. Chapter 297 Mountain God 13. As soon as the word outsider came out, Wei Zhilin was almost paralyzed by fear. Only then did she realize that the god in front of her was a local god. A being with powerful power. Even if she was a time traveler, she was just an ordinary person, without the power to challenge the gods. If they could see through her identity, wouldn't they be able to crush her to death with just one finger? Su Qingni smiled and said, I won't do anything to you. Really? Wei Zhilin asked in disbelief. To the gods of this world, you are no different from ordinary natives. Su Qingni said, otherwise, when you first came to this world, the gods would have cleared you out. Then you appear in front of me now? Aren't you trying to clear me out? Wei Zhilin asked. Did I say it? Because you made gunpowder and broke the rules of this world. Su Qingni patiently said it again. If you don't make gunpowder, you will live in this world for the rest of your life, and I will not appear in front of you. Wei Zhilin. If she had known that there were really gods in this world, she would never have made gunpowder. Then her end would not have been so miserable. Wei Zhilin quickly changed from sitting to kneeling, and kowtowed to Su Qingni. Lord God, please forgive my mistakes and help me. She didn't want to be a beggar anymore. Su Qingni's response was to dissipate in front of Wei Zhilin like bubbles. Ah! Wei Zhilin screamed unwillingly, but it was of no use. Su Qingni watched Liu Hongxin and Zhang Songwen love each other for a lifetime. Liu Hongxin did not work as a staff member for others. He took the imperial examination early, became a jinshi, and was appointed to the Hanlin Academy. Liu Hongxin has been hiding in the Hanlin Academy, looking like he is studying hard. He is not a high-ranking official, and he has not shown any talents other than studying. When the princes were trying to win over talents, they did not take a fancy to him. Later, the fourth prince won and the new emperor ascended the throne. Liu Hongxin gradually showed his talents and was promoted step by step. In this life, he did not do much in the officialdom, but his Buddhist way of dealing with things won the favor of other colleagues. Officials from the two factions fought for power and refused to give in. They did not want to give each other an advantage, so they simply gave up their positions to Liu Hongxin, who posed no threat to them. Then, Liu Hongxin relied on his Buddhist way to smoothly achieve the first-rank official position, which was higher than the highest position he had achieved in the previous 2 lives. Zhang Songwen participated in the diplomacy of the ladies. Many ladies of the official families knew that she came from a famous family and looked down on Zhang Songwen. But Zhang Songwen slapped those people in the face with her actions and performance. There is nothing she can't do, such as playing music, chess, calligraphy and painting, managing finances, cooking skills of female workers. She is more outstanding than the noble ladies carefully raised by them in Canada. How can they have the right to laugh at her? Liu Hongxin and Zhang Songwen gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. Liu Hongxin had children around him in his later years, so he was not afraid that no one would see him off after his death. Liu Hongxin did not take concubines or maids, and he only had Zhang Songwen as his woman in his life. The two loved each other all their lives. Zhang Songwen became the envy of all women. "Husband, I am very happy to be your wife in this life," the gray-haired Zhang Songwen said while lying next to the equally gray-haired Liu Hongxin. Liu Hongxin looked at his wife with tenderness in his eyes. Even though his wife's face was full of wrinkles, she was still the most beautiful old woman in his eyes. "Then be my wife in the next life." If he could be reborn in the next life, he must find Zhang Songwen first and then make her his wife. Zhang Songwen smiled. "Husband, don't be too greedy. I am already very satisfied to have such a life." "But I am not satisfied," Liu Hongxin said. Zhang Songwen said, "Husband, this life is given to us by the gods. It may not be the case in the next life." Liu Hongxin, "Then let's pray to the gods sincerely and let them bless us to be husband and wife again in the next life." Zhang Songwen was moved. "Okay." The two lay side by side on the bed and prayed silently to the gods. Their prayers turned into wishes and flew to Su Qingni. Su Qingni received their prayers and came to the two people. "Lord God." The two excitedly wanted to kowtow to Su Qingni, but their old bodies did not allow them to do such violent movements. They could only look at Su Qingni eagerly. Su Qingni said, "I have heard your prayers, and I will fulfill your wishes. But in return, you will lose your abilities." "Our abilities?" Liu Hongxin was puzzled. Su Qingni, "The ability to turn back time. Does that mean we can never be reborn again?" Liu Hongxin and Zhang Songwen made a decision in just a moment, giving up the ability to be reborn in exchange for the fate of being husband and wife in the next life. For Liu Hongxin, rebirth is really not a good thing. He has been reborn twice and has lived the same life for 3 lifetimes. He is tired of it. "Lord God, we are willing to use our abilities to exchange for the fate of being husband and wife in the next life." "Okay." Su Qingni nodded, stretched out the index and middle fingers of both hands, and tapped the eyebrows of Liu Hongxin and Zhang Songwen respectively. 2 white spots of light flew out from the eyebrows of Liu Hongxin and Zhang Songwen, one large and one small. The large one was the size of a grain of rice and flew out from the eyebrows of Liu Hongxin. The small one was smaller than a sesame seed and flew out from the eyebrows of Zhang Songwen. Su Qingni caught it and was very happy. These 2 balls of light were fragments of Zhu Jiuan's true spirit. Zhu Jiuan was in charge of the law of time, so Liu Hongxin and Zhang Songwen could go back in time. "Okay, I'll send you to the underworld to reincarnate. Don't worry, you will definitely be husband and wife again in your next life." The descendants of the Liu family found out the next day that the 2 old people in the family died together. The news that the 2 people could not be born on the same day but died on the same day of the same year and month spread, making people who already envied their relationship even more envious and moved. Some literati even wrote poems and lyrics for the 2 people, and wrote their deeds into storybooks and operas, which were sung and passed down to the next generation. Thousands of years later, The real deeds of the two people are no longer reliable, but they have become a model of husband and wife love, and a classic character image in the history of literature and art, comparable to Liang Zhu. Su Qingni harvested 2 true spirit fragments at once, and she was happy. She hummed a song and cooked a table of delicious dishes. She also dug out the 200 years of peach wine buried under the big tree in her yard, and asked the wind blowing through the mountains to bring a message to Fengyu. She put the wine and food into the storage space and headed to Linkang's territory happily. She wanted to celebrate with her friends. Of course, she would not tell her friends in this world what she was celebrating. Su Qingni met Fengyu, who came on the wind halfway, and the two of them entered Linkang's territory together and came to Linkang's yard. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298, Mountain God 14. Linkang's yard, like Su Qingni's, was built in a secret valley. There was a barrier outside the valley, and mortals could not enter. But at this moment, what did Su Qingni and Fengyu see? Mortal. There was actually a mortal in Linkang's yard. It was a little girl about 10 years old, with lively eyes, cute looks, and full of energy. When Su Qingni saw the little girl, it was as if she saw a female version of Fengyu. Who are you? Why did you break into someone's house without the owner's consent? The little girl asked before the two of them. Fengyu was unhappy. He was Linkang's good friend, and he could come to Linkang's house whenever he wanted, just like entering his own home. When did he need the owner's consent? And this little girl was not the owner. Who are you? Why are you in Linkang's house? Fengyu snorted. Who is Linkang? The little girl was puzzled. Fengyu said, you are in Linkang's house now, but you don't even know who Linkang is. Little girl, so the name of the mountain god is Linkang? That sounds nice. Fengyu reached out and grabbed the little girl's pigtails, and said, tell me, who are you? How come you are in Linkang's house? Let go. You bad guy. No, tell me your origins first, then I will let go. Humph, as uninvited guests, you should explain your origins first, right? Little girl, will you tell me or not? You tell me first. Fengyu actually started quarreling with the little girl like a child. Su Qingni walked around the two of them and went to Linkang, who had already walked out the door as he felt his friend was visiting, and asked, why did you take in a mortal girl? Linkang said helplessly, this girl was sacrificed to me by the villagers at the foot of the mountain. What? Those ignorant guys actually used a living person for sacrifice. Su Qingni was surprised. This kind of thing can't be allowed to happen. It's okay for us to be mountain gods, but if living people were used for sacrifice in rivers, lakes and seas, it would cost lives. Have you punished those people? Linkang said, the villagers have been deceived. I have already punished the guy who pretended to be a god and deceived the villagers for benefits. The villagers also understand and will not use living people for sacrifice anymore. Then why did you keep this little girl instead of sending her back? Su Qingni asked. Linkang said, it's not that I don't want to send her off, but this little girl is too stubborn and doesn't want to go back. I sent her to the entrance of the village once, but she ran back to the mountains by herself. She didn't find my place and was almost eaten by a large wild animal in the mountains. Fortunately, I sensed that she was in danger and rescued her. This child is an orphan. Her parents died 2 years ago. She is not well liked by the villagers in the village. She has had a very hard life in the past 2 years. If she had not gone up the mountain to find food often, she would have starved to death. This time, when the villagers heard that a living person was used as a sacrifice, they immediately pushed her out. She has become cold to the whole village and doesn't want to stay in the village. Then why don't you let her stay with you? When did you care so much about an ordinary mortal? Don't say that you pity her hard life. We have lived for thousands of years and have seen many people. Many people's lives are more miserable than this child, but I have never seen you pity those people. Why are you different from this girl? Su Qingni stared into Linkang's eyes and asked with a very serious expression. Worried in her heart, she thought of Liu Shan. Linkang's eyes were deep as the Linkang mountain he governed, making it difficult for people to see clearly. I have a premonition that this girl and I are destined to be together. Su Qingni was shocked. Are you going to follow in Liu Shan's footsteps? Lin Kang smiled slightly and comforted Su Qingni. Don't worry, I'm not Liu Shan. Knowing the result, I won't be tempted by humans. It's hard to say about feelings. You think you are rational and won't be tempted, but you choose to keep this girl. You are tempted because she is different from other humans. Su Qingni sighed. Lin Kang obviously treats this girl differently. How can she not worry? Lin Kang is her best friend in this world and the person she wants to invite to the Lich world. If he ends up like Liu Shan. Su Qingni decided to sort out all the knowledge in her mind and find a way to preserve Lin Kang's soul and prevent it from being scattered. Feng Yu and the little girl stopped arguing after seeing Lin Kang and Su Qingni talking. The little girl cared a lot about Lin Kang's opinion and didn't want Lin Kang to think that she was a child with no manners. She stopped talking and walked to Lin Kang's side, looking very well behaved. Feng Yu came over and asked Lin Kang, "Who is this girl?" Lin Kang told Feng Yu about the little girl's origin. Feng Yu was as worried about Lin Kang as Su Qingni, so he shouted, "No, this girl can't stay. I'll send her away, the farther away from you the better." When the little girl heard this, her eyes bulged out in anger, and she glared at Feng Yu fiercely, as if she would rush over and beat Feng Yu if Feng Yu said another word. Feng Yu really said, "Don't worry, I will help her find a good family to take her in, and I won't let her starve or freeze, and I will make sure she grows up safely." The little girl kicked her feet and punched Feng Yu with her little fist. Feng Yu is a god, and the most agile and fastest wind god. How could he be beaten by the little girl? He clamped the little girl's fist at once, and said, "You want to hit me?" The little girl's eyes were blazing with fire, and she suddenly lowered her head and bit Feng Yu's wrist with her teeth. "It hurts. You stinky girl, let go." Feng Yu grabbed the little girl's pigtails and pulled them back hard, wanting the little girl to let go. But the little girl was stubborn, and even though Feng Yu pulled a small bunch of her hair off, the little girl didn't let go. It's really like a fight between children. Su Qingni shook her head. Lin Kang couldn't help but laugh, and stepped forward to gently separate the two. In the end, the little girl was gently but forcefully kept by Lin Kang, and Su Qingni and Feng Yu's worries were useless. Feng Yu decided to come to Lin Kang often in the future, not to let Lin Kang and the little girl live in a world of two people all the time. He wanted to disturb them, so that Lin Kang and the little girl could not cultivate feelings. Su Qingni was looking for a way to preserve Lin Kang's soul. Having been with Lady Pingxin for so long, and having been searching for the true spirit of the ancestor witch, Su Qingni has a good understanding of souls. Combining the rules of this world, she actually came up with a way to save Lin Kang's soul. However, this method has side effects. Even though it can save the soul, only most of it can be preserved, and a small part will be lost. The small part that is lost includes the feelings of the gods. Chapter 299 Mountain God 15. This is a shortcoming, but for the gods of this world, it can be said to be an advantage. Even if the loss of a part of the soul will weaken the power of the gods, but without feelings, they will no longer have a deep love for their lovers, and naturally they will not die for their lovers. Su Qingni thought that this method could be spread in the circle of gods. Feng Yu often ran to Lin Kang, and he and the little girl named Zikao would quarrel every time they met. But over time, the two of them quarreled and fell in love. They originally had the same personality and hobbies, and finally became very good friends. Every time Feng Yu came to see Su Qingni, the name Su Qingni heard the most from him was Zikao. Su Qingni sighed in her heart. She felt that she had entered the plot again. This girl named Zikao might be the heroine, and the male protagonist and male supporting actor were Lin Kang and Feng Yu respectively. She had already thought of the name of this plot, called The Bride of the Mountain God. Just as Su Qingni thought, the plot of The Bride of the Mountain God was staged 8 years later. At the age of 18, Zikao grew up to be a young and energetic girl. She was not the most beautiful, but she had the most attractive eyes and a wild and beautiful temperament, which made everyone who saw her fall in love with her. Feng Yu fell in love with a girl. He expressed his admiration to the girl, but the girl refused. She liked Lin Kang. And Lin Kang, he also liked the girl, but he was deep in love and would not show it easily. At least Zikao did not see it. Zikao thought that Lin Kang did not like her and was very sad. When she knew that Lin Kang's 50,000th birthday was coming, the girl decided to prepare a special gift for Lin Kang and confess to Lin Kang. The girl left Lin Kang Mountain and no one knew where she went. When Feng Yu found Zikao, the girl had already caused a big disaster. She opened the seal of the ice hell. The ice hell in this world is not one of the 18 layers of hell in the underworld, but a space formed by the laws of this world independent of the 18 layers of hell. The fallen gods are imprisoned there. These gods like to kill. They will only destroy the laws and bring disasters to the world. Zikao accidentally opened the seal, and the fallen god rushed out of the ice hell. Zikao was lucky enough to be saved by Fengyu, who took his last breath to send him back to Linkang Mountain. Fengyu, with a smile, disappeared in front of Zikao. No. Zikao cried bitterly. She blamed herself and was sad. It was all her who killed Fengyu. It's not your fault, you didn't want to. Linkang stroked Zikao's head to comfort her. Do you really think it's not her fault? Su Qingni showed up. She was glad that she arrived in time and saved half of Fengyu's soul at the last moment when Fengyu disappeared. Thinking that Fengyu was resurrected, because there was no emotion and he was no longer the good friend who had been with her for thousands of years, Su Qingni felt uncomfortable. She hated Zikao, the instigator, even more. Don't say that Fengyu was voluntary. She had no reason to blame Zikao for Fengyu. What's wrong with her blaming? People have closeness and distance, and gods have them too. In her heart, 100 or 1,000 Zikaos are not as good as Fengyu. Fengyu was dead, and she was very sensible not to kill Zikao immediately. Qingni, Zikao was just an unintentional mistake, she didn't mean to do it. Linkang sighed and defended Zikao. Su Qingni sneered, Linkang, when did you become so confused about right and wrong? This girl Zikao unlocked the seal of the ice hell and released the fallen gods. You should know the harm these fallen gods have caused to the world. I know. Linkang said, but she really didn't mean to do it. What a good word, unintentional. You don't have to be held accountable for killing someone unintentionally. Even the laws of the world don't say so. What's more, the sins she committed are not just as minor as killing a few people. The fallen gods have spread cholera throughout the world. How many people will die in this world? At least tens of thousands of people. If she doesn't bear the sins, who will? Will you bear it? Su Qingni looked at Linkang with condemning eyes. She didn't believe that Linkang, who is always rational, would become brain dead and unable to distinguish right from wrong because of love. Linkang's face was pale. He knew that what Su Qingni said was right. Zikao had gotten into big trouble this time, but if he didn't save her, she would have no chance of survival. How could he bear to let this lively and cheerful girl, who brought him so much joy and made his heart beat, die? Yes, Zikao did something wrong, but everything she did was for me. I am the origin of everything. Linkang said in a deep voice, I will bear this sin for her. Qingni, we have known each other for thousands of years, and I have never asked you for anything. This time, I beg you, please spare Zikao's life. I will try my best to kill the fallen gods and drive them back to the ice hell as soon as possible to restore peace to the world. I am willing to use this merit to offset Zikao's sins. Su Qingni sneered, do you want to exchange your life for this woman's life? This woman is a human being. If she dies, her soul can still be reincarnated, but if you die, you will completely dissipate. Are you stupid? When Zikao heard this, she shouted, no, Linkang, no, I should be the one to die. Su Qingni was too lazy to pay attention to Zikao, just staring at Linkang. I never knew you would become so irrational. I thought that even if you had love, you would not lose yourself, but now, I know I was wrong. Linkang, you are no longer the Linkang I knew. Su Qingni was disappointed. She had originally wanted to bring Linkang to the Lich Realm. Now, she gave up this plan. I won't kill this woman. Su Qingni stared into Linkang's eyes and said, but how long do you think you can protect her? Before long, the news that she opened the seal of the ice hell, released the fallen gods and killed Fengyu will spread throughout the god realm. Do you think other gods will let this woman go? Linkang, do you want to be an enemy of all the gods in the god realm at that time? At this time when everyone should work together to fight against the fallen gods? Linkang, you don't want to become a fallen god directly, do you? Linkang's face became even paler. What should he do? If he tried his best to protect Zikao, he would really be an enemy of all the gods. But he couldn't bear to watch Zikao die. Linkang turned to Zikao and said to her, Zikao, go away, stay away from Linkang Mountain, and don't come back. No, I won't go, I don't want to leave you. Zikao said firmly, even if I die, I won't leave your side. Chapter 300 Mountain God 16. Even if I die, I won't leave your side. Linkang was shaken by this sentence. Su Qingni chuckled twice and said, you know you have no way to survive. So you deliberately died in front of Lin Kang, wanting him to remember you forever and never forget you, right? Lin Kang looked at Zikao's expression, and it turned out that Su Qingni had hit the mark. Your calculation is very good, so good that I have some doubts about whether you love Lin Kang or not. Su Qingni said, you should love Lin Kang, but you can't love yourself more than you do. Lord Qingni, don't insult my love for Lord Lin Kang. Zikao shouted angrily. I'm just telling the truth. Su Qingni said coldly, dying in front of someone who loves you, do you consider the mood and future of the person who loves you? You are forcing Lin Kang with such selfish behavior, right? I don't mean that. Zikao shook her head violently. Maybe she really didn't have too many thoughts, but Su Qingni's words made people feel that she had ulterior motives. If someone else changed, they might believe Su Qingni's words. But Lin Kang had lived with Zikao for so many years and knew her character very well. He knew that Zikao really loved him and she was not the hypocritical person that Su Qingni thought. However, Su Qingni said this on purpose for the good of both of them, and wanted him to break up with Zikao. However, love has already occurred, how can it be easily broken? Exclamation mark. Zikao, leave. Lin Kang's voice turned cold, and his face seemed to be frozen with a layer of frost, no longer as gentle as usual. Leave, don't let me see you again. Lord Lin Kang. Zikao looked at Lin Kang in disbelief. Did the Lord believe what Lord Qingni said, no longer like her, and resent her? Go. Lin Kang left a cold word, waved his sleeves, and divine power surged out, waving Zikao out of the Lin Kang mountain area. With another sleeve, all of Zikao's supplies were packed into a big package and flew out, landing next to Zikao. Fearing that Zikao was not living well, Lin Kang also packed a lot of gold and silver for Zikao. Although gods don't need gold and silver, Lin Kang still has a lot of gold, silver and jewelry from humans through various channels. Zikao walked towards Lin Kang mountain unwillingly, but a barrier blocked her. No matter what method she used or which direction she walked from, she couldn't get close to Lin Kang mountain. Zikao understood how determined Lin Kang was. Zikao sat beside the barrier and cried loudly for a day and a night. Finally, she carried her bag and walked away from Lin Kang mountain step by step into human town. She didn't know how well-intentioned Lin Kang was. The old gods of this town had just disappeared and the new gods had not yet been born. If she entered the town and mixed in with the humans, other gods would never find her, the culprit to unlock the ice hell. Her life could be saved and she could live in peace and health until she was old. On the other side, after Zikao disappeared, Su Qingni sighed for a long time and said to Lin Kang, can that girl understand your kindness to her? Lin Kang didn't answer, and his eyes gradually changed from confusion to determination. Perhaps without Zikao's influence, he gradually turned back into the original Lin Kang. Did Feng Gaoyu really disappear? Lin Kang asked after a long while. Why do you ask? If Feng Gaoyu disappeared, you would not let Zikao go easily, even if I was protecting her. You would rather fight me to the death and kill Zikao, or even tear her soul to pieces and scatter her soul? Lin Kang said. Su Qingni raised her hands and clapped her hands. Very good, now you have finally become the person you used to be. Before, with the influence of Zikao, you were no longer yourself. Lin Kang frowned. I have always been me. You don't target Zikao anymore, she has already left. Su Qingni sneered, no longer mentioned Zikao, but took out a thumb-sized jade gourd and handed it to Lin Kang. This contains half of Feng Yu's soul. As long as the rules of wind are integrated, Feng Yu can be resurrected. Lin Kang's eyes suddenly widened. You actually have a way to preserve the soul of a god? And can you revive a god? Su Qingni nodded very calmly. Yes, this is the method I researched. It was originally researched for you, but it was used on Feng Yu. Lin Kang understood why Su Qingni researched such a method, and was moved and embarrassed. It was just that the love tribulation was sad. He thought that his character could survive the love tribulation, but he still underestimated love. He did not survive the love tribulation, but was deeply trapped in it. Thank you. Lin Kang thanked Su Qingni hoarsely. Su Qingni waved her hand. You and I are friends, no need to thank me. Besides, this method has flaws. What flaws? Lin Kang asked. This method cannot preserve all the souls of the gods, so they will lose all their emotions and some memories after resurrection. Although the gods are still the same gods, they are not the gods we are familiar with. Su Qingni said. Lin Kang was silent for a while, sighed, but at least they can still survive, which is good. The emotions and memories are lost, and they can be slowly made up. After a pause, Lin Kang said, "You have developed this method at the right time. The war is about to begin. The gods have this method to preserve their souls, so they don't have to worry about falling." Su Qingni nodded, "I will teach this method to others." Su Qingni taught Lin Kang first. Lin Kang learned it, and he learned it very quickly. He mastered the spell after listening to it only once. At this time, both of them heard the call of the gods. The two flew up to the god realm. The moment they entered the god realm barrier, their clothes changed in an instant. Their long robes and wide sleeves turned into silver armor. The two arrived early. After a while, the square of the god realm was already full of gods in armor. A god who was on good terms with the two came to Su Qingni and Lin Kang and asked them in confusion, "Why didn't you see Feng Yu?" Su Qingni glanced at Lin Kang and took out a jade gourd. "Here." "God?" Su Qingni told them that Feng Yu was seriously injured and died by the fallen gods, and she saved most of his soul and was just waiting to be resurrected. Hearing Su Qingni's method of preserving the soul, all the gods' eyes lit up. The war began, and the gods rushed into the battlefield without fear of death. They had a way to protect their souls, and they killed the enemy without caring about their lives. The effect was remarkable. Many fallen gods were killed by the gods, and they were driven back to the ice hell before the fallen gods had time to cause trouble. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.